Welcome back, everyone, to Lesser Known Operators. I'm your host, Nicholas Allen, and my guest today is A.J. Jaxin. Before he enlisted in the Army, he was a tail gunner on a V-52. He then went on to enlist in the United States Army and retired from the 3rd Special Forces Group in 2022. He is now the founder and executive director of the Follow-On Mission. I'll have links to his and his foundation's socials in the show description. Today's episode is brought to you by the Precision Wellness Group and Dr. Taylor Bosley. Precision Wellness Group helps you restore balance, unlock vitality, and fuel your momentum through bioidentical hormone therapy. Dr. Taylor Bosley is a board-certified physician, a U.S. Army veteran, and a former Green Beret. So he knows where you've been, where you want to go, and how to get you there. And he's an actual doctor who can prescribe you actual medicine. That's a bonus. So if TRT, HRT, hormone replacement therapy, testosterone replacement therapy, peptides are something you've been thinking about for a while now, or just looking into, look no further than Precision Wellness Group and Dr. Taylor Bosley in Southern Pines, North Carolina, in person and telemedicine. Today's episode is also brought to you by Alpha Elite Performance. Get your supplements for the gym. I recommend the Pipe Hitter pre-workout and creatine at alphaeliteperformance.com. Use code LKO15 at checkout to save 15%. I do appreciate you guys. Please remember to like, subscribe, share, comment, pass these episodes along. Thank you for listening. A few technical difficulties in this episode I may point out, so I had to edit it so the gaps were not there from the internet lag. So I do apologize if it seems a little glitchy, but this is the best I could get it to sound. So I do appreciate you guys. Thank you for listening and enjoy the show. A.J. Jaxin, welcome to Lesser Known Operators, man. Thanks for coming on.
Thank you very much. Despite the delay, I'm excited and very honored to be sitting here tonight.
Yeah, Doug sent you my way. I've got to meet so many cool people from going down to North Carolina and working as part of the hurricane recovery effort. Now that looked like different things to different people, but I met so many Green Berets doing cool shit. And now I come back home and I started this, and now I get to use some of those things and talk to people and meet people as a result of that. So somebody asked me the other day, they're like, what started all this? I was like, well, it was way back then, but really when I got to go down to North Carolina and feel like I was useful again, I came back home and said, oh, I want to keep this going. And now I get to interview people and tell their stories and things like that. I'm even working on a project to tell people what some GBs did down in North Carolina during the hurricane and after the hurricane. So I'm excited about that next too. So thank you to Wayne for introducing us, or Doug, I mean.
Yeah, good dude. Yeah, seriously, good dude. Not the team room, good dude. Known him for a while. We met on the SOCOM athletic team. He was a Sith Lord. For those non-military, he worked in the Special Forces, the special company within each Special Forces group. Yeah, good dude. A lot of special skills. I'm very fortunate for the introduction. If I could say something about your hurricane relief, and this is the point of a talk I give to middle schoolers at times, but think about that hurricane relief. Where we're sitting right now, it's the culmination of every decision we've made, every action we've taken, and obviously hurricane relief did a lot of good things there. And that experience has brought you tonight to hosting this awesome podcast that's about to go from linear growth to logarithmic. So, and I'm excited to be here at this point.
I hope you're right.
Yeah.
I fluctuate in my belief in myself on a diametrically polar opposite basis all day. I go from I can do this to I'm the biggest piece of shit in the world, back and forth all day. It's kind of exhausting, actually. It's kind of rough, but I kind of just got to chill out when I'm kind of doubting myself and then go, okay, just get back to work, put out your episodes, do your thing, stick to the rough plan that we've never written down and things, and try and put it out. And I mean, I think I'm going where I need to be, but I have no idea. I'm just working every day and trying to make content and make friends and help people feel better about themselves and all this other shit all the time. So I'm having fun doing it. And I get to talk with you. I mean, as we were talking about before, and 30 36, 34. Gee, what is that? 30, 12 plus 22 is 36,
That's yeah,
34 years.
33 years, 33 years credited by the DoD. Actual honest work that I put in, 36, maybe 42 months total. That's what I gave them.
42 months total. Is that like an office?
Yeah,
I put in
no,
like 15 minutes of actual work a
yeah,
day.
yeah. That was later in my career as probably the senior 18 Zulu in the Army. I was a master sergeant for a long, long time. But anyway, I got to the point where I was going to do one administrative action a day. I would clean out my email. I would do one PowerPoint or go to one meeting. That was just my policy. After that, I was going to do what needed to be done and hit the gym and try to be back home by 10:30 or 11.
Terrible. Sounds terrible. I
Eh,
assume though, as soon as that ended, because you started your, the follow-on mission right away after you got out, right? Or did you have that going before you got out?
Yeah, that actually hit me. I tell the story of where this started. It'll take a couple minutes, folks. Hang with me. It has a happy ending. But throughout my career, throughout my life, I had dealt with stress through athletics, and later that became motorsports, racing motorcycles. As the work injuries piled up, some at Fort Bragg, others out of the country. Repeatedly, I was a very, very damaged little boy. And after a hip replacement, I reached the point to where I couldn't race motorcycles anymore. Then I picked up bicycles. I was a 224-pound, gym rat, race bicycles, and power to weight ratio. And I had to change my body type, so I got down to 188 pounds. Started racing bicycles, and something I wanted to do as a kid. At one point, when I was in the Air Force, I was actually training to try out for the '92 Olympic team. That was a Lance Armstrong team. Yeah. Anyway, that was in the past. Near past, racing bicycles. Had a first hip replaced, and the doctor told me, he said that this thing has a finite life in it. You have to stop racing bicycles. And at that point, this athletic competition. It's how I dealt with stress as a child, as a young man, as a Green Beret. It's how I dealt with PTSD, or whatever. The effects of sustained adrenaline and cortisol that you see in combat. Post-traumatic stress. I don't know how to define that, but it's how I dealt with my issues. As a Green Beret, it was athletics, getting out there competing. Once I lost motorcycles and bicycles, my whole world just came crashing in. And to be honest, I started the dark spiral of suicide. I was trained in suicide intervention. I saw the signs. They call it the river, and I was on the river going downstream. I was starting that spiral. My wife entered me into an endurance automotive road race. She got me on a team that was set up by a Marine, active duty Marine. It was staffed by Marines, and she threw me in with the Marines. We got along, got behind the race car, and the change in my life personally was dramatic. My family saw the immediate turnaround after being in a race car for 3 hours. A couple of weeks later, we decided this is something we wanted to pursue. And I was working on a MBA. This was during the Wuhan flu, the Rona. Not much going on after that race. So I got online, went to the state of Missouri Attorney General's office, set up a corporation, and we formed the follow-on mission. We wanted to take what happened to me in that car, and we wanted to share it with other people. That's how the follow-on mission got started. That was a lot of ums and a bit of a ramble, but hey, race cars, suicide interdiction, started with other people. Now we're doing it for other people.
And do you just view it as this helped me, so it's got to work for other guys? Kind of that more adrenaline
Yeah.
sort of thing, because obviously alternate types of therapy, because as well as I do, guys don't want to go sit in a room and talk to a stranger.
Yeah, especially me. That group therapy thing, taking me and putting me in a room with a bunch of other guys that don't have the same experiences I do. I live in a rural area, and there's just not a lot of 18 series dudes or NavSoft or Air Force soft around. So yeah, I don't want to do that. So other people don't want to do that. Uh, what we do is we put you in a race car for an extended period, 90 minutes to 2 hours. Your cortisol and adrenaline are elevated at this point. Physiologically, your body is back in combat. But instead of chasing bad guys and getting shot at, it's a recreational environment. And what this does, it begins to retrain the parasympathetic response to stress. It makes adrenaline fun again. There is some science behind it. Right now, there's about 2,000 hours postgraduate study on this. Another organization is commissioned this work, but they're doing the same thing with race cars. They're putting the head sensor, the sensors on your head. They're measuring respiration, they're measuring pulse, and then they're doing interviews afterwards. We're going to get more into that, where the drivers are going to start wearing EEG gear on their head while they're in the car. We're going to watch those brain waves and have telemetry and see what's going on in their head with a psychologist sitting there. Yeah, it's Track Heroes is the organization that's commissioning all the study, and we're partnered with them, and we're getting the benefit of their research backing up what we're telling people that they're going to feel.
Yeah, man. I don't have any idea what guys talk about when they talk about combat and horrific things they've seen, because I never got to go. I never I mean, I trained and I have an idea, but I don't know. And when I watch people talk about it, I go, man, I wish I had some frame of reference. And then in my head, I go, no, I don't. I probably wouldn't handle it very well. I didn't handle the shit I did very well and losing that. So then, you pile on that other stuff. So it's a weird perspective for me to think about, because, and you say, sitting around with other people that don't have the same experiences and things like that, of like, I get that, because I kind of have a perspective. Like, I sit around and I listen to guys tell the stories and go, I'm not on the same level as like this. Like, maybe the worst thing that's happened to me isn't the worst that's happened. It's definitely not the worst that happened to them, and been in these situations where you're fighting for your life with firearms and things like that. But I've heard that from quite a lot of special operations guys, or guys that have seen heavy combat, is they would go to these retreats or these groups and things like that, and it's just, hey, this ain't going to work for me. I do not feel like I fit in here. I got to find something else, find my people, so to speak. And that's hard to convey to people, because I guess the general population see, well, you were in the military and you deployed to combat or to war, right? But there's such a sliding scale of who experiences what and these things. And it's interesting, like, with these action adventure sports, they're really, guys that have seen some pretty bad stuff, they're having to do some pretty dangerous stuff to make them feel normal again. And then the other side of things, that maybe that's there. So if you ever think about that, like the relationship between what it takes to feel good or feel like satisfied or calm again is in relation to how shitty of time you had downrange.
Yeah, I think the deeper you go into the negative, personal opinion, the higher it takes to pull you out and feel good again. And the boys and girls that are attracted to the type of work we did, generally, I'm going to say on the personality spectrum, more of the adrenaline junkie, the builder, of the INTJ, the architect type personalities, high energy, and it takes that peak normally to make them feel good. And then when you push them down into the negative, personal opinion, it takes a lot more energy to pull them back to the middle.
Yeah. Same thing. You lose your fitness. It's harder to get it back. It's hard to get it back
Yeah,
once you
yeah,
fall downhill. But we're, they're service, and then it ends, and we know it's going to end, but we don't, we like avoid it. And then it does. And now there's an issue. We have a massive problem with veteran suicide. I think it's so much worse than we actually even give it credit for. It's that how bad it is, because there's so many people trying to drink themselves to death, or letting accidents happen to themselves, or things like that, of not being aware, of just not giving a shit about themselves or their life anymore. And those aren't counted in the statistics as well. And then when I talk to guys that work at foundations and stuff, where they're seeing like the national numbers, because most people, you're only hearing about it if it's your friends, and so killed themselves, and so there's, or the guy from your group killed themselves, and that you hear about that. But then when you start hearing from these national organizations that are tied into everything, that it's so bad, so bad. And not just in special operations or in any special unit, just veterans as a whole. Why has it gotten so out of control to need all of these nonprofits that their needs aren't being met by the VA or the military healthcare?
yeah. As far as the VA, I've gotten into the system and I'm trying to go to some alternative therapy they're doing. I'm trying to get into the esketamine program, which is alternative. Esketamine, it's like ketamine infusion therapy that a lot of guys are paying out of pocket to get. Esketamine is a ketamine, but it's a nasal spray. Just an example of an alternative therapy. But my experience with the VA is they push SSRIs. If it's not working, they try another SSRI medication. If that doesn't work, we're going to increase the dosage. I don't know if you've been on these medications, you could be late. For me, they do nothing for depression, maybe make it worse. Alternative therapies, I don't know if the VA is being forced to pursue SSRIs and support the whatever pharmacological company that's providing those. I don't know if it's political. I don't know if it's just indoctrination throughout the medical community that pills are the answer, but it doesn't. It might work with some people, but I haven't met anyone that's been cured of what ails them through pills. So alternative therapy, I think until it hits a medical journal, I don't think the VA is going to do anything with it until it's popular with the cool kids within the medical community.
No, they're not going to do anything unless they absolutely have to. It's just too big of an organization to flex to the needs of veterans. It's in the name. I get that. Yeah, it's Veterans Affairs, but we are not their concern. It's where their money comes from and
Right.
their insurance. That's their concern. That's who they have to make happy. We don't matter, just like we didn't matter in the military. And I try to impress that to people. The military doesn't give a shit about you, and the VA also doesn't give a shit about you when you get out. The
Yeah.
people, your doctor, if you have a good relationship with your doctor, they might as a person, but the VA, no. I mean, my doctor's like, oh, do you want to come in for your appointment every 90 days instead of every 6 months? I was like, yeah, let's do that. And so I go schedule. They're like, we can get you in 7 months. I thought, you know what? I'll just never mind.
Yeah.
It's fine. I'll be fine. I'm just going to go to the gym and you guys let me know when you got an
Yeah.
appointment. That's fine. The VA is great if there's nothing wrong with you. They're great. Check up. Okay, Nick, there's nothing wrong with you. Good. We'll see you in 6 months, or we'll see you in 2 years for your check back up. Wonderful. Wonderful care if there's nothing wrong with you. At the moment there's anything wrong with you, man, you're going to have a bad time. Bad time. And it's really too bad. It's really too bad that we spend all that money on it's okay. Unless now I will say past a certain point, when you're really sick, they'll take care of you. Like if you massive things wrong with you, they'll hook you up and start running all kinds of tests and all kinds of shit. But there seems to be this no man's land of I'm not going to get what I need out of these people unless I was pulling teeth. And alternate treatments. That's one thing, but man, if your testosterone is not outside of 300 or 1100, they won't even give you regular treatments.
Yeah.
That's just a regular treatment to make you feel better. And my God, I am 100% convinced that the amount of money we could save the government by just giving guys $100 bottle of testosterone
Yeah.
every month. And that's just a regular treatment, let alone alternative ones for them. Why can't we get the regular ones to go to just regular people?
Yeah, as far as the testosterone thing, mine dropped in, let's see, 2007, 2008 deployment. Within the first 16 weeks, I had my bell rung to the point of unconsciousness on one time, 4 times. By the time that I was, about my normal 224 weight during that. Let's see, it was about 90 days after that deployment. Last 30 days of the deployment started my cut, when it looked good for the wife when I got home, and weight just started coming off, but it wasn't fat, it was muscle. And about 3 months after that, I go from 224 to like less than 190 pounds. And this is the time I just began as a drill sergeant. We were marching back on a Sunday morning after PT or Saturday morning after PT. I knew something was wrong, felt my blood pressure drop. And I wound up just laying in the middle of the street. The kids had, it's pretty bad. You're a drill sergeant. Your kids have to pick you up and drag you to the curb. And somebody has to call your wife to come get you and take you to the hospital. Went to the hospital and they said, how much weight have you lost? Time period. And like, dude, you've got a tumor eating you up. We need to get you internal medicine. The wife got on the phone with a doctor friend of hers, and she said, "Take him to your urologist, get his testosterone checked Monday." She does that, gets me an appointment at a urologist. They draw blood. My testosterone was at 125. They got me bumped up. As long as it's below 1,000, they run me at 950. Did that for 2 years. I got healthy again. Got the group, went to the surgeon. Group surgeon was great. Just keep it under 1,000. Let's see how much you need. That was fine, and I was embarrassed about it. Surgeon told me, he said, AJ, he said, you wouldn't believe how many people and who I'm treating for low testosterone. It was just, it was everybody had been deployed, that had some concussions, testosterone just dropped. The pituitary gland just quit sending the signal. Yeah, long story on that. And back in the medical community, the surgeon, to use a sock surgeon, swapped out touchy, feel good, body special kind of guy. And he was looking at our battalion surgeon who treating guys for testosterone, threatened to pull his medical license away. What the surgeon told me was, USASOC surgeon told him, "You're trying to build super soldiers with chemicals." No, he wasn't. He was trying to repair war damage.
The fuck out of here.
Yeah, yeah,
Now that I'm on the civilian side of things, get the fuck out of here. Shut the
yeah,
fuck up. That shit pisses me off so much. The only, you know, main sponsor of this show is Precision Wellness Group, Dr. Taylor Bosley. He's a Green
yep,
Beret, and he's
yeah,
down in Southern Pines doing hormone replacement therapy for guys. Shout out to Taylor.
yeah,
And I mean, he explained it to me and some other things. And I put not a rant, but just like a my opinion piece about SOCOM getting into offering or giving soldiers performance enhancing drugs. I went, that'll be a disaster. That'll be a
yeah,
fucking disaster if the military tries to get involved in that, because, some general's going to be like, yes, we're going to do this. Well, he's going to leave. And then somebody's going to come in and go, we need to prosecute these people. These
right.
people are against us here, and pull their tab. It'd be pulling tabs and people be getting kicked out for prescribed medicine, terrible things. But yeah, try and pull people's medical license. Get the fuck out of here. That's and what drives me the most nuts about that is we're supposed to be the smartest branch. Like we're supposed to test to get into all these positions, and you go, and they're still rooted in, oh, this is, these people are just wanting to get big and strong. I was like, that's so stupid to think that somebody that volunteered like 8 times to get where they are is like, I just want this. No, it makes them feel good. They're probably fucked up, and it makes them feel like back a person again. You can abuse anything. And in the team room, we love abusing alcohol more than anything. But I don't know. That shit drives me nuts. It's like, oh, yeah, that's terrible to hear.
Yeah, well, the testosterone thing, First Special Forces Command wanted to test. They wanted to do a blood draw. This was floated around. There's people who can verify this. They wanted to do a blood draw at SFAS, see what the T level was, and then they wanted to track that throughout their career. Army shot that down hard. That goes against the. This was during the everybody's special. Everybody gets a beret. Um, you know, hey, Bronze Stars for everybody. That this was during that period, and that was the time period when I decided I think there's something more than group out there for me. Not that there's anything wrong with group. It was just what they're being pushed into. These going from these special operators with a core mission set to, hey, we're going to go build nations, and the floating around the cross-functional team and all this bunch of all this happy feel good crap was when this is going on. But no,
Mm.
checking testosterone, finding out that, hey, the guys that come into this job, their testosterone isn't 300 to 500. It's probably 1,000 to 1,200. Just insane. So
Yeah. Yeah. Oh, that's wild. That's wild that somebody floated that idea and was like, yeah, we can make this work. The fuck? I mean, I wasn't in the military very long, and I knew when I was a private that whatever you said there wouldn't work. There's no way it could work ever in the military.
yeah, finding out that, hey, some people are different, and not everybody can do every job. You want me to tweak the sights on a 105. Hey, I'm not your guy for that. You want me to go find a village elder and convince him to do bad or wonderful things for the glory of the United States? Hey, that's my gig. I can do that.
Yeah. Well, as I said, we are supposed to be the smartest ones. We should be able to figure it out. or they're supposed to be more intelligent and things like that.
Yeah.
So no, we couldn't even get the cadre, or my cadre when I was going through the course couldn't even like get the pictures of guys' tattoos together because some memo came down, and that was just a big and that's just a picture of somebody's skin they were trying to
Yeah.
take. Can you imagine trying to track guys' numbers across group with PCSs and different doctors and different surgeons and all that other stuff? It'd be a disaster.
Yeah. Looking.
Not saying it's not an issue, but you can't have reins on a program like that. You can't be like, I almost said the other night, it's like, it almost has to be like, okay, we're not going to talk about it like it has been for 25 years. We're just going to kind of turn the other way. Guys have gotten hammered in between there for doing the wrong thing and getting caught. And oftentimes there were other things that led them to get caught and things like that. But it's almost like you got to not talk about it and go, this is kind of how it is. Like, guys, just do whatever you want. Just don't get caught. Like Sergeant Major told me once, Jesus Christ, just don't get caught, guys. You
Yeah.
know,
Yeah. That's the.
that's not,
Yeah. That's living in that gray area. We call it a gray area for, I'm going to say, for legality reasons, but you live in this gray area. But personally, to me, it was never gray. It was always black or white. Sometimes you gotta maybe stay within the letter of the law, but way outside the intent of it in order to get things done. But if you slow down and think about it, put some critical thinking in it. Drop your biases when you're living this life, and think critically about what you're doing. I think most guys can kind of calm their mind and find a black and white living in that gray area. Yeah, you're gonna do things. If you do them wrong, you're gonna get caught, and you're gonna be in trouble for it. My A trip to Central Asia, we were given a mission that was outside the privileges and authorities of what U.S. forces were granted. It was something we had to get done, and we got it done. Fortunately, we were able to stay within the letter of the law. I remember the battalion commander looking at our detachment commander and asking him, "Do you understand?" He just said, "Yeah, rogered up," and we went and did the job. I will say there's some individuals that had to probably cross the line, didn't cross anything morally or ethically. They might have crossed something written down on paper, but it was a good trip. We did good things, and everybody got back home with a clear conscience.
yeah, that's the most important thing at the end of the day. The other administrative things that can happen to you, well, that's for, you can dodge that back in garrison and do your best to
Yeah,
get out of that kind of trouble.
yeah.
So, so you got the follow-on mission, and is that just motorsports, or is there anything else involved in that
It's
as your
the
alternative
the
treatments?
the hook is putting somebody in a race car that in its current configuration will accelerate to 162 miles an hour on some of the bigger racetracks, like Road America, those places. That's the hook. Is we're going to get you in a big nasty race car and turn you loose and let you feel chemicals and the hormones and bring you back to normality. That's the hook. Now, what goes along with that is there's no charge. We don't solicit donations from the we call the clients, the boys and girls that come to race, but their buy-in is effort. They have to prep the car. They have to do pit stops on the car. They have to set the pits up. They've got to load the car. They've got to unload the car. Through this, they're with like-minded individuals. That's the boys and girls that need the adrenaline in a recreational environment. And at each race, you watch it, they start building this detachment. Everybody finds their place. One guy can turn wrenches. Another guy likes dumping fuel. You got a girl that's good with electronics, wants to do the radios. Somebody wants to change tires. And you start seeing this detachment just organically form. And something I forgot to mention is each race, we set up a signal chat with all the participants in this. And I watch these signal chats. And, before the race, they start talking inter-service smack. Um, During the race, it's, hey, I got this. Can you do this? And then what happens is these relationships start going one-on-one after the race. We hook you with the race car. We watch you build an attachment, and then we watch the relationships develop. And you've got one-on-one contact, personal contact with somebody that you get it off with, and in a like-minded environment. It's like watching the Charlie and the Delta go out and go fishing or hit the bars or go play golf on the weekend. That's the end state. Is you're back in a group. you develop the bond. You've got a like-minded individual to go forward in life with, and that's the big part. Race cars, the hook, the detachment. That's the lasting benefit that you get from it.
A lot of these benefits are a selfishness, selflessness sort of give and take relationship.
Right.
Is this
Exactly.
is this how did this get started? Was this put on by you? You said I think you had another person that you started with this with, you said?
Yeah.
And
We
then
start.
how do you guys fit into that? Because it's got to feel good when you start seeing that thing happen and that cohesion happen for you as well.
Yeah. Yeah. That is highly it helps me. That part of it, watching the bonds form and see these people benefit, that helps me greatly. As far as forming this, we formed it. My family did. Me, my wife, my brother, and his wife. After seeing the change in me, four of us came together, and first we were talking about, hey, let's just do some racing as a family, and then a day later, it just hit me as how selfish is that? Why don't we buckle down, spend some money, put some effort in, and let's go take this and instead of bringing it in, hey, it's helping me, the family's watching me, they're enjoying it, they're gearheads too, including my wife and then my brother's wife, all gearheads, all of motorcycles, racing things. But it went from this internal thing that's going to bring us all joy to man, that's selfish. Let's, instead of bringing it in, let's push it out. Hope you answered your question. That's how it came about. And the greatest joy for me and my wife is well, let's say me and my wife, and there's more family members and people we're not related to that we call family now. But that's the greatest reward is seeing the effect and the lasting benefit going forward. Hope that answered the question. That was a lot of rambling, a lot of ums.
Oh,
I'm, I'm
the whole
yeah,
show is rambling. And it's ums, and it's you're
man,
working through a thought and things like that. We're all getting better at speaking. We speak our whole lives, and we never know how to get the right words sometimes. But that's kind
yeah,
of that's kind of where I'm at in things. But no, yeah, it's got to feel good that you're helping again, right? Because a lot of the military, especially when you get into senior leader, you have soldiers or airmen or whomever, Marines, they work for you. You have people you're in charge of. And then it kind of you get kind of out of that. And I know I kind of got the first group sergeant major to articulate it. He's like group is the loneliest seat for when you're enlisted guy, because you're just separated from the guys now. You're out on an island in a building nobody wants to come visit you, or they don't even want to talk to you because, oh shit, if you're talking to group sergeant major, things have probably gone awry.
yeah,
And they don't want you hanging out in the team room. So that's got to feel good for you as well to be back kind of at the team room level making change, because everybody tells me comes on here, team sergeant's the best job in the military. I mean, there's nothing that compares to it. And you got 11 other guys that the command you have and the power you can bring with a 12-man ODA is like nothing else. So it's got to feel good putting a team together again, being back at that level.
yeah. I'm the team sergeant of the deal. Detachment commander is split between two ladies, but I'm the team sergeant. I'm ops, kind of running the day-to-day operations. But my desire with this follow-on mission thing is I want to be the junior Charlie again. I just want to be a dude. I just want to build things, blow stuff up, run with scissors and dig holes. But unfortunately, I'm team daddy. I got to keep things moving forward. Listen to my guidance. Stay within the guardrails, but keep moving forward. But man, I want to be that junior guy again. Somebody step in and take this, please.
That's fun. Yeah, I was a junior Charlie for I think I was Charlie 4 for 3 months before I got hurt, and then I went to Charlie 2 on the B team, and then I think I had only been in group like a year, and I went to Charlie 1 on a B team, another B team, and then I went to the battalion Charlie. But I'm still, I mean, I didn't even get to the point where I would have been a senior Charlie on a team in group that long. I would have been just a senior Charlie when I got to, so I was a battalion Charlie. It's a weird thing. Like I kept getting higher and higher positions. I like failed, or like, okay, hey, Nick's hurt. He'll do that. I'm like, well, I don't know what the fuck I'm doing, guys.
Yeah.
But I know what you mean. I think Charlie's the best best job on the team, but
Yeah,
I don't know. I'm biased.
I'm biased too. I went through. I was very fortunate. I went through the Q course as a guardsman, and as a guardsman, your company sergeant major determines what you're going to be. And as a guardsman, I, I was Charlie. After all the testing SFAS, I got pulled and said, "Hey, you're going to be a Delta." And I was on a Delta roll for the first day of when you go to MOS school. I went to my TAC and I said, "Hey, here's the deal." I said, "The Deltas are calling me. They're calling me out to come draw books and start the Delta course." And he said, "Well, I've got you here too. Which line do you want to get in?" And I said, "My ass is staying right here as a Charlie." There was a little bit of back and forth that day, and then once it's, hey, he's a guardsman, needs of his battalion and company, kept me as a Charlie. As a guard thing after the Q course I went through active duty sessions board. We'll get to that. But as the Charlie, and guys, listen to this. The Charlie he's going to be interacting with the Delta. He's going to be building the med shed. He's going to be getting the supplies. They've got the med supply thing sometimes works. Sometimes the Charlie may have to go tactically acquire some stuff. With the Bravos, you're building bombs. Bravos breach. They want breaching bombs, so you're working with the Bravos. I'm sorry, guys, man. You just got weird. You started out, and then I don't know what happened. We went embedder, we digital, and Dama, and you guys started talking weird stuff, and you still couldn't make SATCOM. It was solar flares. So I'm sorry, Echoes. You're out. Go sit with the cyber warrior or drone operator or something. I'm just kidding. Yeah, Charlie. Even from a team sergeant's view, Charlie is the best job. There's always work. There's most of it you can make pretty fun. If you can't build it, break it. Sorry, rambling again, but God, it's such a fun job.
No, you're good, man. Actually, when you were saying that, I some little Tetris pieces in my mind lined up, and because all I do, I'm trying to make this work. So I talk a lot. I interview other people's shows and this show, and I put information and I work thoughts out. I'm just talking, trying to make content and things like this. And I'm just, working on a thought, working on a thought, working on a thought. And finally, oh, there it is. And somebody asked me a few weeks ago, like, what is it? What was so special about it? And in my mind, I was only in group for 3.5 years, and it's become a very big part of my personality. And while you were talking there, there's tactically acquire something, and then there's, or build something and things like that. And so when I left group, I was 31 years old, and that whole process, I started working when I was a little kid. And then I started getting into instruction when I was 12. I started working as an adult on job sites as a 12-year-old kid, getting picked up to go work with adults that had adult problems and talking adult things, and then remodeling houses, building houses, and figuring stuff out and just trying to make way all the time. And so while you were talking there, I went, man, somebody asked me, they're like, why'd you pick Charlie? And I went, well, it's the easiest way for me to get the beret, because I knew if I got to the Charlie course, I had it. And that's how it was. When I got to the Charlie course, it was a no doubt. I was the best student in the Q course during the Charlie course. I had it from wire to wire. I knew exactly, I had that whole course. The rest, it was iffy. I was in the middle. I was just a normal dude going through the Q course. But while I was at the course, that's why it's so special. My whole life, I was getting ready to go be an 18 Charlie. And then it was just over of 20 years of trying to put it together to do that. And I got to, and it's even more like that it was even more so when I just realized that. It's like, man, that's because I loved it so much. And then that's why I was doing it. So yeah, just figuring more stuff out of like, why do I feel so attached to this thing because it was a very long process. Like some people came from other careers, and no, mine was all built on one, on the other to get to that point. And then it was over. And then I just kind of fell apart and started drinking myself to death. But,
Yeah.
things kind of go south. But to work that out, to explain that to people of why it's so special to somebody, when you finally work out a thought of, well, we only did it for this long and that's thing. No, I mean, I started when I was a little kid.
Yeah.
Digging around in the scrap pile, putting 2 lawnmowers together and trying to make shit work to mow the lawn. figuring shit out. I was always going to be that. And then I got to it and then it ended and I took it poorly. And, it takes some of these alternate things to make people feel good again and to like feel anything again. And I don't know, as you have been saying, a rambling thought, but I'll work it out some more. But it is interesting, isn't it? Like we work towards these things our whole lives, and it might not be in uniform. It might be long before, but you get there, and then you've got it, and then you get it, and you have it, and you don't want it to go away. I don't know. It's
Yeah,
kind of
no,
interesting.
yeah, I'll back that up in the 18 Charlie course. In the 18 Charlie course, now I'm going back I'm going back to probably two versions of the Charlie course. But we dealt at that time with we built our own improvised explosive devices. If you can build them, you can understand them, and then you know how to defeat them. But when you're building demolitions, the Charlie course isn't just demolitions. I'm going to say the bulk of it. There's also, construction, wiring, logistics, detection, weapons identification. When you're going through the demolitions portion of the Charlie course, you've got, 25 to, maybe I'm going to say 15 to 30 dudes. You've got one, maybe two instructors, and you're dealing with substances that a mistake is going to kill you and everybody around you. That's when it sinks in that, hey, it's big boy rules. Things can happen here. The life-ending things can happen here, and there's nobody looking over your shoulder. You're working with side by side, maybe a couple of dudes, and you're kind of fleecing each other. But at that point, you realize, hey, I'm a grown-ass man at this point. I was a little older, but yeah, I understand your feeling of that elation of achieving a spot in that course and doing the things we got to do there.
Yeah. Yeah. And as you said, bad things do happen. I've been able to talk to some cadre recently, and they're like, yeah, you guys had explosives. We were always watching you guys like a hawk. And then 8 years ago, I think it's 8 years ago, maybe 9 years ago now. It's been a while. They did have an accident right at how do I put this? Right at the table.
Yeah,
They had an accident,
yeah.
and
Uh,
that shouldn't have happened, and it did. And everybody I've talked to that was around that table, they're like, nobody knows what happens, and that shit happens too. So that's too bad as well.
Yeah. There was the class immediately after mine. It wasn't as severe as the fatal accident. They had a range accident during their improvised explosive phase. Instructors were clearing the range. There was a charge that hadn't cooked off yet. I believe it was 1 pound, and I think three of them walked up on it as it went off. They all had they only one had blast injuries that had to be monitored for a few days. But after that was an eye opener to higher headquarters of what goes on here. And I know for a while they had shut down the improvised phase of that course because of that accident. Now this is years and years before the table accidents. Yeah, I don't know how much the Charlie course evolved after they pulled improvised out. I'm sure it came back at some point. Yeah, there's sure
Yeah,
is.
we had it. That was in when did I go through? 13 or 14? Yeah, beginning of 14.
Okay.
I went through or through the Charlotte through. I went sock over Christmas before Christmas break, and then we finished after Christmas break, and then Calcan Play started.
Ugh,
Yeah, semantics all with that stuff. It was
yeah.
cold. No, what was I gonna say there with one thing I never realized. Um, and I joke about it with people, and maybe you can relate, and maybe you can't. I had a very non-stressful Q course, in that
Yeah.
the only times I've ever been smoked was at Log and Rifle PT twice. When I went the first time to selection, and then the second time to selection, I got the shit smoked out of me. That was rough. But other than that, nothing. I showed up and I started the Q course immediately, phase, 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 phase. And then when I got to the Charlie course, man, the Echoes were getting the fucking shit kicked out of them. The Bravos were on the fob with us at one exercise, just throwing sand in each other's faces because they'd fucked something up, hanging mortars and letting them fly. And the Deltas, well, they had a rough course the entire course, and we didn't get fucked. My boys and me, we didn't get fucked with one time in the entire course, like ever. We never got fucked with. And then I realized, doing interviews, I went, yeah, because we had live explosives in our hand, and we could have, really killed everybody, really
Right.
accidentally killed
Yeah.
everybody if they were fucking us up.
Yeah. We were, even during the field exercise, I don't think we had a little bit of interaction with the other OSs. They were supporting our field exercise. I don't think that those cats realize that we're running around. We didn't have we didn't have blocks, but I mean there were spools of dead cord. Everybody had blasting caps on them. I mean, everybody had enough stuff on them to end their life, and it's just a field exercise. It's just a bunch of dudes running around giving missions, go blow this up, and yeah, you go out there and you're charged. We had charge simulators, which was it was like a size of a box of chocolate covered cherries full of talcum powder, and then you put a big Yuli nut in it. It give you a big blast effect. But there's enough dead cord and blasting caps there to end lives. Yeah, it was great. Instructors were very professional. When discipline needed to be issued, it was it was a stern talking to, maybe a counseling statement. But when I went through the course, I won't mention names. Two call them very high energy, well known dudes. But when I went through the course, after our course ended, our two main instructors were headed to Delta Selection to become direct sport breachers. So our PT was their train hub for selection. And they were, no minimal risk of injuries. They weren't pushing us to the point of our bodies breaking down. But we came out of the Charlie course. We were machines physically. I mean, everybody was lean, buffed up. It was a great time. It was a fun time, physically challenging and very physically rewarding too. With what you went in with physically versus what you came out with. A couple of great dudes. They ran a great course.
Maybe it just wasn't memorable, and I just need to have some more talks with the guys I went through with. I don't remember doing PT a single time in the course at all. Maybe it just wasn't memorable. Maybe it's because of the concussions and I lost it. It just wasn't anything that needed to be retained. But I don't remember doing organized PT in any of the phases ever. Nothing.
Nope.
Not one time. It was crazy. And some of the x-rays, they have their program. They get the shit smoked out of them for half a year or at a time. But yeah, I don't remember. It was really like a gentleman's course. I remember that it was show up to your class, pass your exams, and make sure your time fuse hits. That's all we had. At the end of the day, that was the only time in my life where I was like, okay, if there is some higher spirit out there, let it pop on 7 minutes. But other than that, that was it.
Yeah, no, our RPT, it was some mornings it was, hey, go to the gym, and then they would pop into the gym, make sure we're there. Other mornings it was a structured run. We did a lot of rope climbs, did a lot of pull-ups. Everything we did was it was just, I won't say CrossFit. It was textbook functional physical training. Yeah, I talked about time fuse. That was the only stress in the Charlie course, was making sure that time fuse popped. It was just you start that window. What was the window? Was it? I can't remember if it was 10 seconds or 5 seconds.
For you guys, it was plus or minus 3 seconds. For
plus or minus
us,
3.
It was plus or minus 5 seconds. So we had a 10-second. You had a 6-second window because that changed a few years before us.
Yeah. I remember, man. Once you hit that window, it was just you can feel your pulse rising. Come on, baby. And when you're cutting a short time fuse, it's okay. But I mean, when you're cutting a 15-minute fuse and you got to be plus or minus, or maybe 10 minutes as long as we did, but that was just an eternity. I remember one guy missed the time hack. He was early. That got everybody to front leaning rest while verbal counseling happened. The instructor was so mad. He put the senior instructor was so mad. He put the I don't say assistant instructors, the less ranking instructors. She put them in the front leaning rest too. But hey, that was a huge deal. A charge going off early. You think about that in real life. What if we weren't off the objective yet and that thing went off? So lesson learned.
Yeah. There's real world concerns. There's definitely things that apply to that. I did have an instructor tell me, he's like, man, I never failed anybody for time fuse. If they were failing, I'd get them for something else if we did drop somebody. But like time fuse, like let's give them another chance. Give them another chance. Now, I mean, that's extenuating circumstances and things. If you can't get the job, you don't deserve to be there.
Yeah.
Enough about time fuse, but that's got to be a big change, right? So you came into this from the Guard, but then from the Air Force.
Yeah.
What prompted you way back in the 80s to say I want to go be a space shuttle door gunner?
Yeah. I was sitting in study hall with my best friend, still best friends. We live 4 miles from each other. But My grades were marginal, but I like drafting. I was working 37 hours a week, going to high school, full-time high school, full-time job when I got off. That my grades weren't great, but I had a talent for architectural drafting and I liked it. And I applied to the drafting program at K-State. Grades weren't there, but unbeknownst to me, my instructor wrote a letter of recommendation, explained my situation, and says, "Hey, accept this guy. He's going to be a great architect." So I got my acceptance letter to K-State. Completely unexpected. Opened it up, showed it to my mom. I'm like, "Mom, I'm going to be an architect." And she says, "How are we going to pay for it?" I'm like, I have no idea. And she says, she has to, well, you're not going to be an architect. You're not going to college unless I can, figure something out. Maybe I can go to night school or something. Crush me. I didn't have a lot of hopes and dreams, but, that was one of them. So the next morning I'm sitting in study hall with my best friend and, I tell him the story. And he's like, well, what do you really want to do? I said, man, I want to fly. He said, well, why don't you go talk to the recruiter? I went and I talked to the Air Force recruiter, and of course, he sold me. Hey, man, everybody in the Air Force flies, enlisted or officer. Everybody's on an airplane. Sold me the dream. So I did that, and then I went to the airport same day, and I took my first flying lesson. And I was hooked, man. I instantly love flying. So went back to my mom and like, hey, mom, I need you to come to the recruiter and sign papers. And she said, absolutely not. Wait, you're 18. Sorry. Turned 18. And it's like, hey, I'm going to sign, but I want to fly. And he said, well, I don't have any jobs here. You can be an MP, you can be a fueler, but there's no flying jobs. That's the only two jobs I have. And I said, well, I'm not going to list. And he said, well, I could put you into the delayed entry program, and then when a job opening comes up, you can go. So I wound up enlisting in something they call General Open. And that's just throwing the dice. Air Force has room for you and you'll get a job. So I took that on the gamble that I could fly something. Okay, so back to this open general contract. Before I signed, I asked the recruiter, I said, I want to fly. What do you have as an airman going in to fly? And he said, I don't know of anything again. I said, there's got to be some kind of defense systems operator, electronic warfare, some kind of intelligence gathering technical position that I can get. And he said, I don't know. Just go in open general and see what they get. So it was sign the contract, month wait after enlisting before I had my entrance. Now, this is at the end of the Cold War. Cold War's tapering down, money's drying up, military's getting smaller. There are more dudes waiting to get in the Air Force, and I could have walked in and become a Marine or Army, but 13-month wait to get in the Air Force. My date comes up, go to MEPS, ship out, hit Lackland Air Force Base. First week or so is just in processing. Then you start doing hey, what job do you want? And I told my guy there, I think he's actually from career counselors, decided I want to fly. And he goes through and he says, hey, we have something called a B-52 Defense Systems Operator, or B-52 Defensive Aerial Gunner. And I said, bingo, I want it. And he said, how much college do you have? Like, 0. He's like, you'll never get it. I can put you in, but you'll never get it. And I said, well, I'm a private pilot. He said, that might do it. He said, so he made some notes, submitted me to be a B-52 gunner. Really kind of told me, hey, don't get your hopes up on this deal. Come back tomorrow. We'll see what you have. Go in tomorrow. Bam, I've got an MOS or Air Force AFSC, your Air Force specialty code, 111X0, kind of like an 18 X-ray. You're gonna finish basic training and start the B-52 Defense Aerial Gunner, Tail Gunner program. I started it. Initially you have to go through something called Enlisted Aircrew Undergraduate Qualification, and what this is it's what I've seen similar to it is the Warrant Officer Flight Candidate test. You go through, you learn about aircraft, you learn about aerodynamics, mechanics of aircraft, fuels for MFF for free fall guys, military skydiving. You go through a chamber ride, chamber qualification. You actually come out with a HABS card that shows you as a physiologically tech. You can run when you're free fall diving, you can run the VO2 system. Anyway, I made it through. It came out. It was a little over a year later from starting basic training to getting to my first duty station. A little over a year training, high risk SEERs thrown in there, but that started it. I went from sitting in the study hall, dejected over, hey, I'm not going to be an architect, to I'm a B-52 tail gunner on an air crew with lots of swagger and not a whole lot of knowledge, but a whole lot of swagger, and thinking you're a big deal.
I mean, is it a big deal
It
at
at the
that
time,
time?
yeah, at that time it was. This is the end of the Cold War. We were still sitting nuclear bomber alert. 1 week out of 4, you're living in an underground bunker. You've got a fully armed nuclear armed B-52 sitting 100 meters away from you, and you're just waiting for the horn to go off. Your mission is already you're given a mission. When you go onto alert, you study the mission. You ensure the airplane is navigation is programmed for that. You ensure the weapons are programmed for the proper yield, and you're just sitting there waiting for the horn to go off to take off in in life on planet Earth. It's very stressful on one part. There's something called the PRP, Personnel Reliability Program. Still, people in the military that are on this. Anybody around the president is probably on this, but your actions are heavily monitored. You cannot self-medicate beyond, I believe it was aspirin. You remember it was aspirin, something else you could take. Anything beyond that, you either had to get it from the flight surgeon or you had to report it to the flight surgeon immediately after taking it. You think about guys now taking pre-workout, Kratom, things like this, that would immediately remove you from personal reliability program. That was very stressful. Living on that, a speeding ticket could have you pulled off a mission to go talk to the base commander. It was a serious deal. During that time, I actually got a speeding ticket on a bicycle, of all things. Fortunately, my squadron commander, he squashed that. Cops were next door. He was a lieutenant colonel. I think the cops were I think they were led by a captain, and he just went over there and had a chat with them about the stupidity of writing a speeding ticket to a guy on a bicycle who's training, versus somebody in a truck speeding across both. Rambling again, but that's the story.
I never heard what is that called? Personnel.
PRP, Personnel Reliability Program. Once I got out of the Air Force, I was still on it. I believe it was 6 years. If you guys know what an SF-86 form is, that's at the time it was paper, but it's everything you've done, everybody you know, and family members out to, I think it was grandparents, aunts, and uncles, addresses, phone numbers, the whole bit. Maintaining that program, it was stressful. I might be talking too much about this, but I don't think I've said anything beyond that.
No, you haven't.
Yeah, but there's people out there that are on it, and it's stressful maintaining that standard.
Yeah, I looked at some contracting things, and then they're like, "Well, you got to have clearance for this," and I went, "I don't think I could fill that paperwork out
Yeah,
and trust my answers based on what's up. Like, I don't know anymore. I just
yeah,
don't know some stuff. Like, and then it's like, well, you put this, and I went, well, I thought I was. Well, let me just go find a
yeah.
regular job. Fuck it. I'm not gonna do.
Yeah, when I was, it was one of the 5-year reviews of my top secret. The investigator comes and I'd done my paperwork, and she's like, "Okay, I need to talk to somebody that you hang out with." And at the time, I don't hang out with anybody. Nobody in this unit has anybody to hang out with. And she was arguing with me, and I told her to hang on. Now, this is at the Special Operations Training Detachment, and at the time, we were TDY a minimum of 21 days a month. So I've been there 10 months, and I went in, I printed off all my travel vouchers. I was TDY for 210 days out of 10 months. I handed that to her, and I'm just trying to explain to her, here's why I don't have friends. Here's why I don't hang out. I don't have any coworkers. I'm not here 210 days out of 10 months. That ended it. People they don't understand the stress of getting these clearances and maintaining them to go beyond just the regular top secret. Once you go beyond that, it's stressful, and it's a pain in the ass to maintain that.
Yeah, there's always another curtain,
Yeah,
and there's another job. You can't be the best. There's always another room full of people that are way better than you or smarter than
yeah,
you, and then you go down the hall, and all those people down there are stronger than you, unless you're
yeah,
me. And then it's like,
yeah,
those guys can run, but yeah, there's always more. There's always more behind the curtain. And that's why I said, at the beginning, there's a sliding scale of what people experience in the military, and it's
yeah,
so vastly different. So vastly different
yeah,
from one end of the spectrum to the other. All right. So I never heard that alert, because 82nd, they've got GRF
yeah.
one,
Global
we can
Response
jump a whole
Force.
brigade, global
Right.
response force. But so you're a kid and you're a tail gunner on a B-52, and 1 week out of 4 you're on alert. What do you think about that at the time? Do you think you're saving, like, gonna save the world at the time, or and what do you
Yeah,
think looking back on it now?
it was, at the time, um, we the bird I flew was the H model. The H model did not have what they call conventional mission. That's a, we're going to go and drop iron bombs on people. We only had a nuclear mission, and it was, you thought about it, and when you're off alert, it's Sunday night at the barracks. You guys are hanging out, and people start. We have non-classified talks. Say, and you think of, say, surface to air Russian 12 could catch an SR-71, and then you start talking about the mission, and it's like, what's going to happen after we fly this mission? We've got a place we can probably bail out of the aircraft and ditch that is not going to be bombed. The Soviets probably aren't going to bomb, and we're not going to bomb. So there's a place where we could possibly survive, but why? What are we surviving for? There's no planet left. The global winter is going to set in after a nuclear war. Everything's going to die. You're going to starve to death or die of radiation poisoning. So, yeah, we had these talks, but the reason you do the job is it's cool. Well, you wear a flight suit. When you're doing a training flight, it's pretty cool. You got that swagger. You got your little briefcase with all your publications in it. You got your cool Gentex helmet, the flight suit, and you just, Top Gun had just came out a couple years before, so thinking you're cool overweighed the dark shadow of what the job actually was if you ever did it.
What was that movie? War Games, Matthew
Yeah,
Broderick.
yeah,
What do you do in the bunker? I mean, okay, so I'm
yeah,
born in '87. I grew up
right,
in, so some of my life no cell
yeah,
phones, some of my
right.
life cell phones. Now the next generation, they don't know that. But you're sitting in a bunker. What the fuck are you guys doing? You're locked away. You're weak.
Yeah, you like there's a lot of the officers are studying for courses for they're getting prepped for their whatever the version of intermediate level education was at the time, ILE. A lot of the officers doing prep for that. Guys they're writing in their journal. Me, I took my bicycle on alert, and there was part of the area across the fence at the airfield where vehicles were allowed, and I could train. I had a 1 mile square loop, and I went out there every day. I had my little radio. I can't say the name of it, but there was a radio that would let me know, a small radio, just throw my bike short, so it let me know, hey, the horn went off. It's time to go jump in the bomber. I just went out there on my bicycle and I rode laps. In the wintertime, I pumped iron. At night, nighttime going to sleep, we had cable TV, we watched movies, just kind of thinking about, it was kind of like living life during the Rona. Nothing's open, you can't go anywhere. What can we tear up and have fun here in the house? That's kind of the mentality. A lot of pranks, a lot of jokes. There was a theater for VHS tapes. It wasn't a projector. It was a projector TV. Horrible picture, but it was this great big, probably 60-inch screen, and I don't know what the resolution of VHS was, but it wasn't great. A bunch of recliners in there. We had movie night. We made popcorn. I was the junior guy, so I made coffee every day, and it was in this. I think it was like a Navy ship. I don't know. You look at a percolator coffee maker now, it was like 10 times the volume. Yeah, I think it was like 3 pounds of coffee, to fill it up. Chow was good until the flight surgeon changed, and she was a dietary goon, and she took away Taco Tuesday. Yeah, Chow was good. It was comfortable. The facility was very comfortable. I mean, I'm even talking. They had a hot tub in it. Uh,
It's the Air Force. It's the Air Force. Come on,
That's
come on.
That's the Air Force, yeah. Um, and when I say a gym, this was not a plywood bee hut with some concrete weights tied to a rope, and a stick for doing triceps. No, I mean this was the gym was it was an old B-52 hangar in it. I forget how long the track was. I think the track may have been a half mile. Full size tennis courts in it, multiple racquetball courts. That's the gym. Of course, heating, AC, sodium vapor lights overhead. It was, yeah, by Army standards, man, alert was plush.
It sounds, I mean, the military's not real, like the real world,
Yeah,
and then the
yeah,
military's
no,
like this fantasy world. But that
yeah,
actually, that's like sounds like a vacation from the fantasy world, because you're not even part of the military. You're in this little box, and if they need you, which they're not going to need you, And if you do, you're going to die, and then it's all over anyway. So it doesn't
Right.
matter. So
Yeah.
you're just in this other dimension for a week. That doesn't, I mean, it probably gets old, but it sounds kind of fun thinking back about it. You probably had some
Yeah.
fun times of hanging out and good conversations. And I'm
Yeah.
sensing a theme with the bicycle that went everywhere with you in the beginning.
Yeah, in the beginning, as a kid, I was told when I was 9 years old that when you turn 12, you can have a motorcycle. So BMX. I love bicycles anyway, but yeah, from 9 to 12, man, it was BMX bicycles. Once I started racing motorcycles, I realized that the riding the bicycle gave me a fitness edge racing the motorcycle. This is my 12-year-old mind, putting this together. So I saved up a little money. Most of my money went into racing the motorcycle. I saved up enough on the side to get a Sears version of a Swin, I think it was a 12-speed bike. And that's when my cycling fit this. I realized this does something. Still continue to run, still continue to lift, but I realized the cycling developed a cardio capacity that gave me an edge on a motorcycle. Bicycle stayed with me, went with me to the Air Force. I was in this is at Fairfield Air Force Base, Spokane, Washington, and I think I read it in one of the bicycling magazines or saw it at a bike shop that there was going to be an Olympic tryout in Spokane on this date. I didn't have any racing experience, but I had triathletes that I would go out with me once or twice and teach me how to draft, and how to pass, how to ride in close quarters. And all my triathlete buddies rode with me maybe once or twice. I didn't realize that I was just breaking these guys off out on our training rides. I had a couple weeks where I was not on alert. I was multiple weeks where I covered 650 miles a week on a bicycle, at which point that's overtraining. Multiple 120-mile rides 6 days a week. I developed to where I thought I was probably going to do very well in this Olympic tryout. My command made a deal with me that, hey, they would support my training. They would allow me to not hang out in the office during the day as long as I remained proficient in my job. So I'm training away, training flight, and one of the evaluators are there. There's this thing in the Air Force called standardization evaluation, or STAN-EVAL, or STAN-EVIL. And a B-52 tail gunner showed up as everybody's getting ready to fly. It's called a no-notice check ride. Well, I was the lucky guy that got picked for the no-notice check ride that day, and I failed my check ride. So, get my check ride, get back, get counseling by my first sergeant, by my wing gunner. I've got to go to the base commander and talk to him. It's like, hey, you explained why this crew is not mission capable because their tail gunner busted a check ride. Immediately, my privileges to train were stripped away. And for the tryout date for the Spokane Olympic tryout event, I got sent to Minot, North Dakota for retraining on a simulator. The whole Olympic hope it evaporated in just a matter of seconds on my check ride. It was just a matter of flipping a switch that I flipped the wrong direction. I was a punk. I was a kid. They were supporting this Olympic this Olympic deal. The military athlete back in those days was a big deal. They supported me trying out for this as long as I maintained proficiency, and I did not maintain proficiency. Bicycle, it tapered off pretty. My hopes and dreams kind of crashed on that the athletic aspect. The riding tapered off, and within 18 months later, I wasn't riding the bike anymore at all.
That's a lot of riding, though. Did the lesson stay
Yeah,
with you at least, and use it
yeah,
as motivation
yeah,
to not fucking do that again?
yeah. I realized how far professionally I was behind. Being an aircrew member, even an enlisted aircrew member, that's a full-time job, and it requires off-duty effort that I wasn't putting in. And I realized I was behind, and it just kind of came to me that, like, AJ, you're not good at the outward. You're good at the swagger and the look, and the words. But professionally, tactically, I was proficient. Technically, I was not proficient. And I realized that I wasn't good at this, and I really want to do something else. I started looking at becoming an officer and becoming a pilot, and I knew becoming a pilot would force me to put that off-duty effort in to be technically and tactically proficient. Tactics on a B-52 as a tail gunner. I could call the maneuvers when we were under attack. I could tell the pilot how to fly the airplane and take our defensive posture, put it into an escape posture. Technically operating the system, man, there were just some things, there were just some switches that, I just didn't have the procedures down, man. And I probably need to go look at something that I would be that would force me to be better. Started looking at being a pilot. Couple of attempts at that didn't work out. Talking here, Green Beret to Green Beret, Green Beret to everybody watching the podcast. Just admitting that there was a job in the military I sucked at, but I like doing.
I mean, there's probably a few jobs that I couldn't do in the military either, and that's you can't do everything. You can't be good at everything, or it's not the right time to do them. You're not mature enough. You
Yeah,
don't have the
yeah,
experience enough. You don't.
yeah.
I say all the time, I don't know what it was. As soon as I put the uniform on, all of the motivation that if I would have poured into athletics when I was in high school, I would have been a professional athlete. But I just didn't have it until I put the uniform on. And I was like, this is it. Let's do this. It's time to do this now. And I did it with every bit of me until I got out. And that's just how it was. Sometimes it happens later in life. And now I've got the perspective. And now it's all over. I'm like, man, I'm like, I look at
No, it's
my buddies and listen, and my year groups. They're taking teams and up for 8 and things like that. And I go, man, with what I know now, I could do that. The concussion wise, I can't do it. Physically wise, absolutely, I could crush it. But I can't get hit in the head anymore, so I can't do it. But man, I think maturity wise, yeah, I could do it now. And sometimes timelines don't work out, and that's okay too. At least you know it,
yeah.
At least you
That
know.
was a tough lesson learned for me. The realization, it took a while for that to really sink in. Like I said earlier, this is for everybody out there. There are no accidents. Everything serves a purpose. Where you're at now is a culmination of every decision you made, every action you took. We were we were at the time I viewed it as there wasn't much better in the military I could do other than special forces. We're out now, but our past put us here, and it's going to drive us forward. Okay, we can't. I see so many dudes do this. They get out and they just stop. They're not going forward. They're sitting still, convincing themselves that, hey, I'm retired. I'm just going to kick back. And you see them, they gain weight, to quit working out. They're not monitoring their testosterone level. They don't have any projects. Like, guys, get out of that. We're here for a reason. We've got an awesome background. We've got a ton of skills. If you take those and you push forward, keep developing yourself, take your past, use it, go forward. There's something wonderful ahead of you, but you got to go out there. You got to reach for it.
Yeah, absolutely. I think as far as what I'm trying to do, I think what I'm trying to do now, although I don't know what I'm doing and I don't know where I'm going and I don't know how
Yeah.
to get there,
Yeah.
I think it has the opportunity to surpass what I did in uniform, but I'm pretty convinced that I have done everything in my life that I ever want to do. And I'm pretty okay with that. Like, I don't, like, I got, because, all right, there's statistically some point in your life has to be the high point. And there's nothing that says it wasn't when you were in your 20s. And it's like,
Right.
you never know when you're going to peak. You could have peaked in high school. You could peak in your 20s and your 30s. I maybe climbed the mountain and becoming a Green Beret. It was a lot of work to get there. And so I've thought more about it and more about it. And then now getting sober and then pretty clear head. Well, why do we have to stop? Maybe I can just
Yeah,
still do
exactly.
that. Let's make a healthy way to still do that. And that's kind of what this is. So if I can do a healthy way of still being a GB, but not in uniform, then I think maybe I can get to the same level. But as far as all the uniform side, that's over. I get to do cool shit in civilian clothes now, and that's okay too. But perspective, I have a pretty pessimistic perspective on life as it is, and it works for me. It doesn't make me happy, doesn't make me sad. It just makes me not feel like things as much as I used to. I kind of sad though when you say it. I don't think it's sad, but it's other people say it is. It's like, that's a you problem, not me.
Yeah. Well, just remember every trait that pushed you through the Q course and got you to a team, got you to group, every trait you had that got you there, you still have, but now you have the experience of doing the job.
I never got to do it. Now I have different experiences.
Yeah.
Everybody's so different, and injuries and all this other stuff and factors in there. Like some of that stuff, the kid that went through the course, he's not alive anymore. I've said a few times, this picture right here is the last picture before I completely changed. The person who went out in the ocean never came back, and it completely different. Right there. And so some of the things that got me through the course and the personality wise and thing, there's a lot more destructive side of things that I found later on with going through treatment or going through healing up, and then, drinking and self-medicating and all these other things and things like that. But I think with some things and injuries, there's parts that are gone forever, just like some memories and things like that. So, yeah.
Yeah.
But as I said, my path is not what other people have. I just try and say, this is what worked for me. And if it works for you, good. And if it doesn't, I hope I can help you out in your path. Man. All right. So last one on the door gunner thing, or a
Okay.
tail gunner.
Yeah.
What's the gun?
I was on the H model. That's a 20 millimeter Vulcan. Same.
Did you get to fire? Like what is
Absolutely.
qualifying? What is it called? We call it like table eights or whatever.
Yeah.
If you're looking.
The qualification, I think it was quarterly. But what would happen is the electronic warfare officer would drop a flare off the wing, and it's just this canister that looks like the ones we were dropping look like tuna cans. But he would drop a flare, and we would lock onto it with the gun, and we would fire the gun. And I forgot how many rounds we had to fire. It was a full load. Let's say it was 1,200 rounds. I can't remember how many rounds it was. It was a boatload. But he would drop a flare, and you would have an evaluator with you. You locked the radar onto it, and your radiation model at the time, the gun wouldn't fire unless it was locked onto a target. You couldn't just spray and pray. So he's dropping these little pucks off the wing. You're locking onto them and just dumping rounds into them. Of course, you sit up in the front of the airplane. You don't.
You're not feeling it. You're not feeling
the H model, the G model that I went through training on had quad 50s on it, and that would shake the airplane. But you didn't. You get a little bit of hydraulic noise from the 20 millimeter, but you didn't get much effect. Way up in the front of the airplane with. I can't remember how far away that thing was, or the dimensions of it, but you're over 100 feet away from the gun.
It's like it's a big machine.
Yeah, I mean, if you've ever heard the what was it, the H model AC-130 had the 20 millimeter on it. I mean, that thing sounds like a mini A-10. If they're shooting over you, you get to hear the crackle of all those bullets coming over. But no, there's just not much effect. You watch the round count meter, you're seeing the radar, you're watching the target, evaporate. Rounds will hit it. Of course, it's going away from the airplane. The airplane's velocity, it hit the set airstream. If you're a free fall parachutist, you hit the stream, the airplane goes away. So that flare is tracking away at 300 knots, and it's falling, and that radar is tracking it. And you're throwing 20 millimeter fire at it. But yeah, you just don't get that visceral feeling that you want. So it's kind
of that's kind of what I had in my mind. Is you're sitting in a ball, like on a what is it? The Enola Gay, and you're in the belly of the thing, B-17.
Yeah.
You're firing like this. Okay. So it's a little more modern than that. But
yeah.
I'm going to imagine that you were in a ball on the bottom of the plane, hanging out there with a 20 millimeter camera. That sounds a lot cooler.
I got your Gentex helmet on. You got your oxygen mask, you joystick in your right hand, radar system in front of you, a bunch of switches, SATCOM radio, and some stuff. But it was you think of like a sim wearing an oxygen mask, and it smells bad, and you're feeling the bumps and turbulence. It wasn't for a 20-year-old. It was pretty cool, but for a grown ass, it wasn't.
Well, everything's cooler when you're young.
Yeah.
So how long did you stay in the Air Force for?
I was in and out, and I believe it was just over 2 years. There's a thing called the Grand-Rudman Strength Reduction Act that I didn't know about. This was going to go into effect. It was signed into law. I knew nothing about it. But part of the Strength Reduction Act, the Air Force decided this anachronistic tail gunner, we're going to get rid of it. The gun doesn't have the range to defeat Soviet missiles. They had developed what they call look-down, shoot-down radar. The fighters could look through ground cutter. We flow extremely low-level penetration. I won't say the heights, but there's some YouTube videos of a friend of mine that crashed a B-52, him doing some ridgeline crossings and stuff. But they developed radar that could look down through the ground clutter, shoot the B-52 down with a missile. Traditionally, they didn't have that capability. They had to visually see the bomber flying low level. Then they had to make gun passes on it. And, doing that, the 20 millimeter cannon with the radar we had. Also, we had an advantage, but, we could be pretty effective at defending ourselves. Once that once that was lost and Rudman came into effect, the Air Force said, "Hey, we're just part of the Strict Reduction Act. We're ready to rip the tail gunners." And we were sitting in the office one day. This is after I busted my check ride and had to start going back to work, and sitting around the office cooking hot dogs, smelling farts, telling jokes. Our chief gunner came in. It was an E9, and he had previously mentioned, don't worry about the Grand Rudman. It's not going to happen. He came in one day and he said, boys, you got 8 weeks to get out or find a new job. I was like, wow. At that time, I called my dad. He knew a guard pilot for a Cobra unit, started talking to him, got my warrant packet together. I took my flight physical, and rather than try to find a new job, I just, I signed, hey, I'll take the early out with a significant guard commitment. After that, wound up being in active ready reserve. So I had that PRP requirement on there, but I opted to get out to pursue this Cobra pilot warrant officer program.
For
That was the end of
the Army?
for the part of the Army Guard. Yeah.
Okay.
So
All right. All right.
yeah.
So are you still in Washington State then?
Yeah, still in Washington State. I had a warrant packet, approved. Warrant packet was approved. I had a Class 1 flight physical. At the time, a Class 1 flight physical, you could pass it with, I think, one corrective lens. If you were within like 20/40, you could have one corrective lens to get that eye back to 20/20. That's what I had. I was farsighted one eye, and I had done exercises to shrink that eye muscle so I could pull my vision into 20/40, occasionally 20/25, but just a slight corrective lens. Man, I was 20/15 both eyes. Doc signed off on my Class 1 flight physical, which is good enough for a pilot. Sent it all to the guard unit. I'm getting out. The discharge papers are rolling. I'm going to roll out of this. I'm going to move back to Missouri. I'm going to go to the guard warrant officer program, or go down to Rucker, learn how to fly helicopters, learn how to fly Cobras, and then I'm off time. I'm going to start school at Central Missouri State University. Everything is looking good, man. I had everything lined up. It was about 2 or 3 days before my final out, and the full timer at this guard unit, he calls the tail gunner office, answers the phone, and he's like, "Hey, you're something wrong with your physical, like a class 1. I'm signed off." He said, "Yeah, but you have a corrective lens." I'm like, "Yeah, but I'm still Class 1 flight physical. I'm good to go." He said, "Not for the warrant program." Like, what's up? He said, "No corrective lenses to be a warrant officer. He said, you can be a commissioned officer and pilot, but you can't be a warrant officer pilot." I'm like, okay. That was the first time I lost warrant officer flight opportunity. That was the first time. So yeah, I was walking down the road, picking rocks, scratching my unemployed ass, living in my mom and dad's basement. It was a rough time for a bit. So we got back together after a few months.
And this is 1990, 1991?
I believe this is, let's see. I believe this is 90. This would have been late 90, early 91. Yeah. 2 years in and out of the Air Force. Bulk of my Air Force time was in training. So I think I managed to accumulate just under, it's like 998 hours at a B-52. Still got 1,000 hours at a B-52. I mean, 2 years in and out, boom, with a huge requirement still on me as far as behavior, what I can and can't do.
I don't know the answer here, but why does it continue on?
Because I don't believe it was called special access programs at the time, but it was TS, SCI. You know, 70, I think it was 75 years non-disclosure. I mean, the guy was joking about, I could tell my great grandkids what I did once I got out, but until then, keep your damn mouth shut. But yeah, it was the sensitive nature of what you're exposed to, what you're around. Things that very quickly become routine that if the public became aware of would just be horrified or intrigued.
Okay. Well, and it wasn't because there was a chance of you being recalled into
Yeah.
duty that you had to maintain that also, or?
Yeah, no, that was the time you're in reserve. You have to maintain recall standards. And for the Gulf War, I actually had recall orders sent out for the Gulf War, but they were pulled out of, I think they told me the paperwork made it to the Jefferson City Post Office when they were pulled out. But I had recall orders generated. Once it was looking like we were going to war, I picked up the phone, called my old unit, said, "Hey, what's going on?" And they said, "Hey, you're coming back." But yeah, during that time frame, you have to maintain recall standards, and Gulf War popped off. I guess it was 91. I had orders. I was prepared to go back to the unit, but the air war was so fast in and out that they yanked everybody's recall orders. At least I think they gave everybody's recall orders on the B-52. And um, that to me, I was thinking, even if I was recalled, I'm not going to go drop bombs because our unit was, we had a strategic mission. We had a strategic nuclear mission. We didn't have a conventional drop iron bombs. They're pulling gunners back, at least issuing orders. I don't know if anybody actually went back. Yeah, yeah. Like long story, but yes, I had to maintain recall standards of lifestyle and behavior for that period of time until I received my Air Force discharge. I was released from the Air Force. I was not discharged. Kind of a weird status. But hey,
All right.
DoD gives me credit for that time that I was not actively going to a unit. I joined the Army in that time frame.
As long as the retirement check reflects it, then yeah,
Yeah,
that's all that matters.
yeah. I don't get paid for credit for 33 years. I don't get paid for some of that time. But hey, it worked out, man. I can't I cannot complain about my paycheck and benefits that I received after serving whatsoever.
I take that back from what I said earlier.
Mhm.
I do have a goal in life. It's
Yeah,
that I can live as long as possible to just get VA benefits for as long as I
yeah,
can. That's that's really like the only thing right now that I really want to get my money back from the government that they keep taking from me every year.
right.
So I want that money back.
And when I meet people, I'm introduced to people, and it's always, hey, what do you do? For employment, I tell them I'm a burden to the taxpayer.
You might think this one's funny. I think it's hilarious, but every January, I'll just walk I'll just walk up to a random person and I'll say, "Oh, thank you for paying your taxes." And then I'll just walk off. I won't say anything
Yeah,
else. I think
yeah,
it's hilarious. It's a joke they're probably telling that story to somebody right now going, "Yeah, this dude just walked up to me, said thank you, big guy, saying, "Oh,
yeah,
thanks for paying your
yeah.
taxes." And then he just walked off. It's really
Yeah.
weird.
Um, my reply to thank you for your service was, dude, they paid me the entire time, and they still do. So thank you.
Hey,
Yeah,
that's one of my questions later. Don't jump
yeah.
the gun.
Sorry.
Well,
Yeah,
you're fine.
yeah,
You're fine. Uh, all right. So we jump into the Air Force when we're back out and we're discharged. Like, where does the Army Guard sneak into this plan of you now? Because I feel like
yeah,
you're back and forth, you
yeah,
know.
yeah. The military thing, it never went away. Me and my wife, she was trying to get my job. Anyway, I met my wife. Things worked out there. Started out kind of weird. We got some debt. The career I was in the car business, and it was just so manic depressive. You have a good month, it's great, and then the next month there's nobody buying cars, nobody can buy cars. It's just so up and down and manic depressive. And I finally got out and took a job took a job at a sign shop. I did graphic arts in the morning, and then I did fabrication in the afternoon. It was a lot of fun. Didn't pay a whole lot, and got in my mind that I'm going to become an attorney. So started going to night school full time, working full time in the day, doing graphic arts and fabrication. Going to night school full time. School didn't have a dedicated pre-law program, but my counselor put together a business with a lot of government stuff thrown in. It was a pre-law program, just wasn't called pre-law. It was business. So I'm knocking this out full time, and it's at a private school. It's not a state school. And man, it's just tuition and books are just killing me. And I go into my counselor. Say, are there any kind of grants? Is there any kind of stipend from the school? Maintain straight A, but I'm taking student loans. I can't afford to do that. Going into debt. He said, "Your prior service, aren't you?" I said, "Yeah." He was retired military. He said, "Why don't you just join the guard? It's 1 week in the month, and you get your school paid for." So go into the recruiter again. And go to the guard recruiter. And I'm like, "Hey, here's the deal. Air Force. I joined the guard. Pay for school. I like flying a helicopter. And there's an aviation unit in my hometown." And she says, "Well, why don't you just become a crew chief? They're door gunners. You're a tail gunner. Crew chief is a door gunner. They just don't call it door gunner. Why don't you do that? Okay, sign me up." So she gets me a job at the aviation unit as a door gunner. I did 6 weeks of Air Force basic training. For the National Guard, that meets the requirements of basic combat training. So 6 weeks in the Guard, I signed the papers, I get my uniforms issued, and I'm in an aviation Guard unit as an unqualified crew chief. It was,
I'm here, guys.
yeah, I'm here. It was like a 12-month wait to go into Fort Rucker and become a crew chief. So I did. The Army at the time, they had online MOS training, and man, I'm knocking this stuff out. I go through all the technical stuff for crew chief, and I wind up with this certificate, and I show it to our first line supervisor, and he's like, "Dude, this is like a master A and P supervisor level something." I'm like, "I don't know, man. I just keep doing the test, and it's giving me more bucks." So this gets me bumped up a little bit in the queue to go to Fort Rucker and become an actual crew chief. And it was one drill. I've been there. This is maybe my second drill, and almost everybody is an E4. Fives are the flying crew chiefs, which I didn't know. I thought all crew chiefs flew. No, you got to be E5 in this shit to be a flying crew chief. And he said something about he's been in the unit 9 years and hadn't fired a machine gun out of a door. I'm like, what? Like, yeah, I did 9 years, never fired a shot out of a machine gun from a door. So I don't know why I'm doing this. And at that time, I got on the phone and I started calling around. And 2 hours up the road, I found a job as a combat engineer. Yeah, back to War Officer Flight Packet. Same thing. I submitted through the unit, War Officer Flight Packet. Everything was good at that time. My physical was good. Physical was good enough. They were taking warrants on corrective lenses. Warrant packet's approved. Everything looks good. He calls me one day and says, "Hey, good news, bad news." Okay, what's going on? Your warrant officer packet is approved, but Missouri's overstrength on pilots. Guard Bureau won't allow us to send you until we're down on pilots. But I called Kansas. Kansas will take you as a pilot, but they want you to move to Kansas. I'm like, okay, no big deal. So we've got another warrant officer package shot down. It's got me thinking. And then 9-year crew chief hadn't fired a machine gun out of a door. And I'm like, I'm out of here. That's when I pick up the phone, found a job. I actually drove up there, interviewed with him, and the guard, you kind of get hired. It's more of a business. It's more negotiation, more of a business. Getting a job with a guard, you can negotiate with them a little bit. But it's like, hey, I'll come in as an E3. Um, Come in as an E3. I'll scrub floors. I'll walk in the woods with a bunch of stuff on the weekends. Until you can send me down to Fort Leonard Wood and get me qualified as a combat engineer. Did that. Get qualified as a combat engineer. Realized at that time that with an M16A2, I had some skill hitting knocking down plastic targets at 300-yard range, which leads into another story of how I got to SF. But man, I don't know if I answered any questions there, but it was a cool story in my
No,
head.
you're good.
Yeah,
No, you're fine. I'm trying to piece this all together because now we've got to be in the mid 90s, right? And at that time,
2000. I think it was 99, 2000-ish, maybe.
okay,
By the time I hit the guard, by the time I hit the combat engineer,
and a couple other people that were 90s to
yeah,
up to 2001 said
yeah,
really everybody was either a career or they were joining to go to college.
yeah,
And it was just the units were flooded with people that were there to pay for college.
yeah. That was I started pay for college, then hey, we're going to get to fly helicopters again, to I'm back to I'm here to go to college, guys. But I will say I would lessons learned from my past. I became extremely proficient as combat engineer. To combat engineer, we were a slice element. We were a separate unit. We were designed to not operate as a unit, but individuals to be sliced off and placed in 35th Infantry platoons in Hawaii when war happened. Our unit was set up, designed, and we trained to go off as individuals and work with the infantry.
Well, that's fun.
Yeah, it was a good unit to be in. We built a lot of bombs and blew a lot of craters at Fort Leonard Wood. So knocked a lot of targets down too. So
that's what it's there for. Fort Leonard Wood fucking blows. Just like every other place, there's a base in the military.
Yeah.
Fort Sill sucks. Fort Leonard
Yeah.
Wood sucks. Fort Jaxin sucks.
Um,
Benning's terrible as well. They're all terrible. They're all really just awful.
Yeah, Fort Leonard Wood's, I don't know, 90 minutes, less than 2 hours from my house. I never go there. I think I went there to get an ID card. But this unit, they were, as far as training, man, they were T for trained. And at a minimum, they did quarterly demo quals. And you wouldn't go down there for your 2 weeks, but you would show up at the unit on Thursday, Friday morning, you're on a bus at Fort Leonard Wood. Friday night, you're guarding demo. Saturday, you're building bombs. Sunday morning, you get up, you're still building bombs, you clean the range up, you call the range control, they make sure the range is clear, you hop on the bus, and late Sunday night you're back. And that was quarterly demo calls. I will say that they were more, as far as marking that T for trained, regulation wise, that guard unit was better than some of the SF companies on demo qualification. That guard unit's not getting demo pay. 18 series guys aren't getting demo pay, and the guard guys were, I'm going to say most of the guard guys were as proficient or not better than the company guys on the ODAs were at building bombs. Cabin engineer bombs, it's P for plenty. You do calc in place, but they're not there to breach a door or make a hole in the wall. They're there to level something. So it's much bigger bombs, less sophisticated, good times.
So you got trained up. So you're a 12 Bravo now?
Yeah, 12 Bravo. 12
Okay.
Bravo. As soon as I got MLS qualified, E4, 9/11 happened, and we got. I volunteered. I volunteered for airport security. Went to Lambert Field, commissioned through St. Louis Metro. We were actually commissioned law enforcement. Cool thing about that is they came in one day and said, "Hey, you guys have got. You guys have. I forget what they call it. Reciprocal privileges to." This county in the east and this county north and the Iowa line, and we're asking what's that, and basically it was explained to us, speeding tickets, misdemeanors, you show them your ID card and they're going to let you off. When you had a day off driving back home, man, it was foot to the floor, 90 miles an hour until you hit that county line. So just, getting to drive like a cop was kind of fun. In the middle of
Wait
that,
a
I went to
second.
PLD.
Wait, wait a second. So you're just a National Guard soldier,
Yep.
and they
Yeah.
send you off to be they give you the M9s out of the armory
Yeah.
and send you off to be cops, or what?
Yeah. Now with this, they give you the M9. You had to qualify. I believe you had to qualify expert. Then they hand you over to federal air marshals, and it was a crash course. But you go through a little academy training with federal air marshals. But it was what I forgot what POST stands for, police officer standardization of training. You went through a mini cop academy ran by the federal air marshals. And it was pretty good. It was the Fats shoot don't shoot trainer. He had your M9 qualification, hand to hand restraining, cuffing. We went through all that, but in a very condensed. It was probably 2 weeks, maybe 3 weeks is all it was. And then by golly, it said law enforcement support, but you're a commissioned law enforcement officer. We were there. We were there strictly. We weren't there to make arrests or do anything like that. We were just more bodies. We took direction from the cops. Most of the time, we were just sitting there, sitting at a TSA checkpoint. And when they were having problems, somebody came back. We just walked up and said, "Hey, how can I help you?" And that always settled everything down.
And this is all right in rapid response to 9/11.
Yeah.
Right. Okay.
Yeah.
I hadn't heard that before. Like, oh, we got these people over here. Let's make them cops. I hadn't heard that. That's a new one.
Yeah. Yeah. We let's see. I went to PLDC, made E5, came back, and then the Salt Lake Winter Olympics started, and we were there working for the Secret Service. Same thing. We were just more bodies for the Secret Service. I got picked up to guy picked me up as, hey, this guy's a little more gung ho. Took me on some patrols. We set some early warning flares up and things up, and climbed up in the mountains. I got to do some pretty cool stuff, like basic. I'm going to say like basic real infantry is out clearing white space type deal. He was a good dude. Found out that most of the Secret Service were Marines that served 3 years and then went and got an associate's degree. Not the people I thought they were, but there were still some pretty cool people in Secret Service.
I think it evolved as the military evolved and things. A lot of those paths are people following their friends too. If there's not a trail out of certain places, it's feeder organizations. Now everything's unrecognizable after the last 25 years of the different things, and now policies and all kinds of bullshit. So but all right, so we're 2002 now, right? Then we've got the Olympics. Is that 2002?
Yeah.
All right, I think so. And I've got written down here your first operation with Third Group in 2005. So you must have been spun down from this being a police officer and been like, I want to be. Where does the bright idea to be a Green Beret pop into your head?
Well, it started out as some point in this. We went to do. We were just in rifle qualification, and I had been at a Soldier of the Year board at one side of the state. I called back to our brigade sergeant major. Hey, I won this. And he's like, great, get the drill. They're doing rifle qualification. Make sure you get there and get your rifle qualification knocked out. So, yeah, I drive 3 hours, still got my class A's on. I show up. They hand me a gun, said, hey, jump in the pit, shoot the targets, take my class A jacket off, jump down there. Still, still got my shirt, my pants on, a weapon I've never shot. At this time, still, I've patrolled. I've shot paper a little bit, but I've never shot a 300 meter range with M16. So like, here we go. And I jumped out of my greens. First time go. What did I shoot? I hit a 30, but I think I hit a 28. Hit expert. First time go. Shoot my greens. In my greens with in my class A's with somebody else's rifle. That got me onto the state marksmanship team. That got me a tryout on the state marksmanship team for their scout sniper program. Got selected as a scout sniper for the state marksmanship team. Doing the marksmanship shoots, I ran into 19th and 20 groupers, and they were always, what are you doing as a combat engineer? You're wasting your life. Why don't you go to selection? Find a unit, go to selection. When I was on, got to back up. I've done this crazy things to a couple of years. 3E5 state marksmanship team, Olympic security. There was 20th group out there, the 19th group that was running the show supposedly. All I saw those guys do, and most of them were overweight. They would get there every morning. We're standing on a post somewhere, freezing our asses off, and we would see these guys. They would be snow skiing, saying that they're clearing the venues. It's like, no, you're not. You guys are just snow skiing. You're fat. You go back to where you're living. I hate SF. And then I meet these guys at these scout sniper shoots. They're lean. They got ranger tabs. They got long tabs. They look like soldiers. They can shoot. They can run. They got it down. I got to start thinking. So once again, got on the phone, start calling units. Talk to Chicago. Don't have any room. Don't need you. I'm like, well, can I come up and train with you? And like, well, what do you mean? He's like, I just, maybe someday you'll have room, and I just want to be trained up. So I start showing up. I'm still drilling with Missouri. Fortunately, Illinois is on a different weekend schedule. So I'm driving up to Illinois on Thursday nights. By this time, I don't have a day job anymore. That disappeared during Olympic security. So I'm just a guard bum, still going to school, driving from Jefferson, Missouri. I guess Google's going to tell you, we had MapQuest at the time. It's like a 7.5 hour drive. I was doing it under 6. I'm showing up Thursday night, training Friday, Saturday, Sunday, driving up Sunday night. Eventually, just training with them, I wormed my way onto the Green Platoon. Hey, they're going to accept you. We'll let you in Green Platoon. Resign from Missouri. We'll pick you up in Illinois. So I did that. Then let's see. The unit, they come up in rotation. They're going to deploy. They take the Green Platoon, drop us off at Fort Bragg, and say, hey, do SOPC stuff. Go to selection. Go to Q course. And we're just kind of free range dudes.
My God.
Yeah.
That's
Yeah.
that's
Yeah.
fucked up.
We wormed our way. Our unit got us to the SOPC roster, entry level pipeline, SOPC roster. The unit got in trouble for this, but we were on deployment orders. Took those orders into guest housing at Pope Air Force Base, and there was like 6 of us. We got a house rented on Pope Air Force Base with our orders. So we started SOPC, and these guys are living in the old 82nd Airborne Division area. Nasty wooden huts. This stuff on bulldoze now. Just these nasty wooden World War II barracks, and we're living in a house at Pope Air Force Base. Eventually, between SOPC and Pope housing, we got booted out of that and had to move into the barracks at SOPC. But we started out living like kings. Hot shower, warm bed, washing machine, dryer, stove. SOPC. I don't know if people talk about
Yeah,
SOPC
so
is. Yeah.
we're gonna add, because I'm collecting. I really should have been taking notes all these episodes. I'm at like 90 some episodes recorded, and we're piecing together the history of SOPC, but you have to listen to all the episodes. I haven't heard this. So your National Guard unit, how many guys were in Green Platoon?
I'm gonna say, I'm trying to remember. I think there were 6. I think there were 6 of us, maybe. Yeah, 6 of us in Green Platoon, I believe.
All right. And I guarantee you guys had no idea what 18 X-rays were, because it had just started.
No, we were in, I believe we were in the 5th class, the 5th SOPC class.
So this is 2002?
Let's see.
2003.
It rolled over. I think we got down there in 2002, and then class started. I think class started January 2nd, 2003.
Because it started in 2002, and this is I mean, everybody, if anybody's listening to this, that
Yeah.
is the wonder years. I'm talking to the guy who says he's the architect of all this shit, but I can't imagine knowing what I know now, just coming down from doing drill and green platoon and them going, okay, just go do SOPSI
Go
stuff.
do,
Oh,
yeah.
okay, we're going to go do that. And at the time, I mean, they were brutalizing people, absolutely brutalizing, and then just drop you six and go, here, go hang out with these guys. That's diabolical. That's
Yeah, first day of class, I'm trying to remember, Benning, Benning had just completed Exodus, graduated, completed Exodus, pushed everybody out, pushed all the 18 X-rays out, and we hit the ground. And I think there were, I want to say north of 300 of us at the first day of SOPSI. Every the instructors were losing their minds. They had our guard unit, another guard unit. They had these guard guys that were just told to go to SF, go do Q course, all these 18 X-rays. They had, plus the regular Army dudes. No, regular Army dudes weren't there. It was all guard and 18 X-ray. Somebody made a decision because the guard pass rate was so low in the Q course that guard guys are going to go to SOPSI to either get strengthened up and prepared for selection in the Q course, or are they going to get weeded out? All the guard guys at that time were in that class. It was chaos, absolute chaos. I believe in that There's another content creator, another podcast host, I believe, that was in that class with us. Won't mention his name, but he's probably filming smoking a cigar right now.
nice.
Yeah,
Nice.
yeah, nickname. Yeah, he was Delta Force operator, but I believe he was also in that absolute chaos SOPSI class. I believe it was number 5.
I think his buddy just messaged me last night to come on the show. One of the guys also in that class as well,
Yeah.
I think.
Okay.
Um, yeah, but it's weird how I'm starting to get intertwined with people
Yeah.
from just making
Yeah.
work. But
I got
what a
an
terrible
invite.
experience. What a terrible
Yeah.
experience.
Uh, I was in E5 and I was immediately given a squad. And I think my squad was just under 30 dudes. I mean, it was, if you had 3 stripes on your shoulder, you were a squad leader. And it was just, I couldn't believe all the dudes. I had 3 Baileys in my squad and they kept playing the appointment game with me. It was like, hey, I've got an appointment. Bailey 1 would say, and the next formation, Bailey two's missing. Finally, one of them hit his head on one of the air conditioners, and he had this big stitched up. Bailey, if you're out there, dude, you guys drove me nuts. But one of them hit his head uh, on an air conditioner outside the barracks. So I can remember that dude at really 3 because he had stitches on his head. But they kept playing this appointment game. One of them would have an appointment, and all 3 of them would miss a formation, individually. It was chaos, and it was an absolute blast. PT'd so hard. I puked multiple times a week for PT, but I mean, I was laughing between the dry heaves. It was so bad. I can't remember when the class date actually started, but we would show up for formations. We were doing PT. They were trying to put some sort of hip pocket training together. I remember the head instructor just walked out one day and said, "SOPSI officially starts tomorrow." And this was like 2 weeks before, 2 or 3 weeks before our SOPSI day was to start. The purpose was to start weeding this class down from 300 to I think like 96 with the selection or something. It was brutal. I had a lot of laughs by the end of it. My body was starting to break down. Physically, I was a little older. See, I was 34 when I went to selection, but physically, I was mid pack to top third of the SOPSI kids, the 18 to 27-year-old guys. Yeah, we were brutalized. We were starting to break down, but physically, we were machines. We were prep for SFAS selection.
And we're only 15 months after 9/11 at this
Yeah,
point.
yeah,
The SOPSI program, from what I'm piecing together, didn't get into its most brutal years into 2004,
yeah,
2005,
yeah,
2006. And I
yeah.
think what the main contributing factor was that was the first rotation out of the companies to SWIC.
Yep.
And they're
Yeah.
like, I don't want to fucking be here. And you
Right.
want to be me. Fuck you. And
Yeah.
so, because we didn't have that until like 2003, 2004, 2005, 6, or 2004, 5, 6. But still terrible, terrible. I mean,
Yeah.
yeah.
We we had one instructor I'm going to say most of the guys my age and everybody in fifth group knows this name. I won't say it. We had one instructor that was sent home from Afghanistan, um, booted out of his company, wound up in SWIC. He was a SOP C instructor. SOP C, he was just pretty good. Understanding group, not so good. C, honestly, I thought he was a good instructor. He came out one day in the middle of SOP C and said, I'm not gonna say the name, but Sergeant X is going to take over tomorrow. All I'm going to say is he's a good soldier. Sergeant X, who actually, after he retired, worked for me. We're friends. He's an awesome dude. He just rotated back. He was on a SWIC tour after war, and the switch, there was just a switch that day. It wasn't laughs and smoking in class. It was PT brutality. I'm talking regular Army would just straight up call it abuse at class. It stopped being fun that day. We once we went to selection and came back, there was a gig. There were multiple gig pits built. So what a gig pit is, that's you take sandbags, you build a square, you throw a tarp over it, and you fill it full of water, mud, and you just let it turn into this biological lagoon. And when you mess up, you do your PT in the gig pit in that filth. There were multiples of those built. He was running that. I remember one run he led us on. This was our I think this is our no go 10 miler at SOP C. We were expecting to go out on the road. We went out on the road. It was just follow the Kim lights. Kim light had a turn off, and then it went to the woods. And then the woods came to where fighting positions in ditches had been dug, and we're running a 10 miler for time through this. Most of the guys made it, but it by no standard does something like that fall into. A 10-mile run is running 10 miles. It's cardio endurance challenge. This was through the woods, single track. Can't remember if we had broken legs. We had multiple sprains. Guys coming out needing stitches. It was uncalled for. I made it through. At the time, I was laughing. I made it. I didn't get hurt. But in hindsight, like, dude, that was over the limit. He took a personal interest in me on the runs that I could not beat him on the morning run. He took a personal interest in me because I was a little bit older. I was an E5, and he could not stomach me beating him on a run. And of course, on these runs, I wasn't holding back. This was an evaluation class, and I was putting my all into it. And yeah, I got some harsh treatment for beating him on a run. Yeah, stopped being fun. That's when the switch flipped. That was class 5, 3 or 4 weeks into it. It wasn't fun in training anymore. It was brutality. That's the word I'm going to put on it.
Y'all can keep that, is all I'm going to say.
Yeah.
That's I collect more knowledge on it and things, and just I have it. That's a new story. There's the gig pits and the rocks, and then I got some other stories that people are like, oh, you can't tell people that one. And then
Yeah.
a couple of years after you were there, one of the cadre came out with his family and smoked the shit out of the Sopsy guys
Heard that story.
in the lights of his van.
Yeah.
I'm like, oh my God.
Yeah.
And people are like, oh, the course is harder now or it's easier now. I'm like, I don't fucking know, guys. The cadre would get chaptered or sent to Leonardwood if they did that shit now. So I don't know, man.
Yeah.
I don't know.
I think it was our FTX, almost daily during our FTX, right on dinner time, we would do, I think it was 400 meters of bear crawl on gravel. And you're getting ready to go to selection, and you got selection coming up, next week, and you're doing 400-meter bear crawls every day on gravel and cinders. It was a dam across the lake by the well-known family's cabin. Vince, obviously, you know what that is.
Yeah. Since you guys were the January class, were you guys the one where they marched you out into the lake, in the frozen lake, and smoked the shit out of you till people quit?
No, I think that was a class after us.
Okay.
That was I remember they under the spillway in the dam. I think it was the lake spillway, which was this concrete kind of underground looking structure. Stalingrad 1940 is what they called it. So it's but yeah, the lake was involved, the class after ours.
Okay. All right. So I'm zeroing in on things. I've got way too much knowledge on SOPSI for never have going, but it is like a little thing that comes up here because a lot of x-rays in the force, and my peers and near peers, big X-ray components. Not me, but I took the easy route. I went to the regular Army for a week, and then I went to selection.
Yeah.
So that's fun. So all right, SOP is its own thing. Selection. Did you? How about this? Did you know what you're getting yourself into, or was your whole opinion based on? Because you said you drilled a little bit. You had to
Yeah.
figure out what you were getting yourself into. I had no idea. I was just like, I got to get the fuck out of Fort Sill. You at least knew what you were going to do, right?
There were a few books out at the time. Shadow Warriors was one. Actually, I think my wife read that and then gave it to me. So yeah, I picked up a little bit. Once I went in Sub C, they had the commander's reading list had some good stuff in it, and one of them was Sympathy for the Devil. It's a novel written by a Kansas City cop who was a retired Green Beret, Vietnam era, and that book, working with the Montagnards, the theme of that book was bureaucratic cowardice within command. That was the between the lines of the book. Read that. Couple others. There was a couple. I think it was Inside Delta Force was European G. If you got Sana non grata, that book was banned from I think any USSR property and maybe Fort Bragg. I think it was Inside. It was one of the Delta Force books. Couldn't read that one, but there were several. There were several books put together that kind of fleshed out the view of what a Green Beret could possibly be. So it started out as it was a challenge. It was a level I wanted to reach. I wanted the hat. I wanted the tab. Didn't know exactly what it meant. In Top C, the downtime between the classes, being around the cadre, doing the reading list when I had time, I kind of zeroed in on what it meant to be a special forces soldier. And I decided I really want to pursue this and maybe possibly beyond the Guard. Now, the Guard at that time was coming, I'm kind of rambling here. The Guard has strategic missions. I'm going to say they're probably more refined than the active duty groups. Guard has strategic missions. At the time, they were being pulled off of that, and they were fleshing out the active duty groups. So I was looking at the Guard as kind of going to be more than probably what the Guard's been before we had seen. That idea was starting. So yeah, I kind of knew what it was going to, and I think it might have been something I wanted to do, possibly full time.
Okay. So then knowing that and then going through the course, nobody knew that the global war on terror was never going to end.
No,
Everybody thought it was going to be over right away. So you think you're getting into one thing and you're
right?
learning that. And then as the course goes on, selection, and then the course goes on, you think you're getting to one thing, and then it's not going to be anything like what you
No,
thought it was going to
yeah,
be at all.
yeah,
How's that process going for you from selection to course to group?
yeah. At that time, it was everybody. Everybody within Special Forces Command was rushing to go to war. Third and fifth group were kind of the spearhead, but everybody was rushing. To get to the GWAT. Like I said, at the time, it was, and I hope it's still going on when I get out. I want to get out. I want to get some. And I will say that's a very naive opinion. If you've never been to combat, guys and girls, if you haven't been to combat, don't feel bad about that. Uh, you, it's not anything you want. But yeah, at the time, everybody's rushing to go get your kill on. That was the attitude. There wasn't this long time. Hey, this is going to be going on for maybe 20 more years. Never occurred to me. I thought I was going to get through the course, maybe get a trip, maybe pull a trigger, come back home, and then I was going to be, somewhere doing a strategic mission, in the Caribbean or in Africa. That was my thought. Go get your war on, and go be a regular GB, doing things as a team, maybe as a couple guys, maybe by yourself, somewhere buried in the jungle or the mountains or the desert.
Point there, don't worry about it. You didn't get to go to combat. Don't worry about it.
Yeah,
It bothers me.
don't.
I don't think it affects me anymore, but I know it's there. I know I didn't do it. I know it bothers me, but I don't think it affects me anymore. Not like
There's
not like before, especially from I'm a bad motherfucker now, and I'm the baddest I've ever been, way better than I
yeah,
was when I was in uniform. But it's just the little one thing. I'm like, God damn it. I can't relate. I didn't go get to do the thing, so I can't relate to all of my friends.
yeah. Don't ever feel bad about missing combat unless you're one of the guys. Everybody knows one of these. One of the guys that was scared to go and found ways to not deploy to a combat zone. If you didn't have the opportunity to deploy, don't let that bother you. Um, anybody that's been in actual, hey, this I got to win this fight or I'm going to die, or at least I have to find a way out of this fight. Anybody that's done that is not going to look down on somebody that didn't have the opportunity to deploy. It's kind of it's one of those things where there's times I get frustrated and I think I wish I could just go get in another gunfight right now. But when I look back in it in hindsight, like that was horrible. There's a lot of adrenaline that I still crave. A lot of the equipment that I still want to operate. But at the end of the day, at that situation, it was me or them. So don't ever feel bad because you didn't have the opportunity to deploy. Somebody that's seen it is never going to look down on you. Now there's obvious,
No.
yeah.
Oh, I know. It's not going to go away. I am
Oh, yeah,
100%
yeah,
confident at this point
yeah,
that I just have to be aware of it.
yeah.
There's nothing that's going to make me feel any different. Nobody saying anything is going to change my mind or anything like that. But as a result, one of the other benefits of not drinking is I don't beat myself. Like I don't care. Like I know it
Yeah,
bothers me, but I don't give a
yeah.
shit. Like there's
I
nothing I can do about
um
it.
I've never said this publicly, but I have never killed anyone with my M4. And that's something, I mean, that's, you like deploying. That's something like I'm kind of ashamed. Yeah, I've I've smoked some dudes, but I've never done it with my M4, with my baby. The thing, it was part of me that, that I cleaned and I loved on and I slept with, I carried everywhere. Never once did I pull a trigger and put anybody down with it. And I just, yeah, it's like not deploying. It's like I feel ashamed. I can't talk to people, that have done that.
Yeah.
Yeah.
It's
And,
a it's a weird thing.
yeah.
What's that?
Now this is for the audience out there. Guys that talk about pulling the trigger and I put this guy down and yeah, I was doing all this wonderful thing and I was transitioning to, my knife. I will tell you the odds of those guys having killed anyone in combat, pretty close to zero. The guys that talk good haven't done shit. And I'm going to throw this out there. If anybody wants to get back with me and tell me they are a badass, like, okay, I will publicly apologize. But AJ Jackson, the average Green Beret, is throwing it out there. If you're running your mouth about killing people, you haven't done shit.
Yeah. I mean, there are some people that tell stories that I don't really get into other people's what they say in their
Yeah,
stories and stuff, and especially if they're bullshit. But some people, you can put them on mute and tell they're making it up and go,
yeah.
I think this person's full of shit. And I can't even hear what they're saying. But no, whatever. I have the perspective now. I think this person needs help. Like I really feel for them as a person. Like I think they need to get professional help because there's something horribly wrong with their psyche that they might not be able to fix unless they start working at it now. And I just feel bad for them.
This is looking broader on that topic. I'm seeing the nation and maybe the world entering an age of authenticity. We're watching some of what were the staples of information, entertainment, and influence. We're seeing those start to crumble one by one. Even huge corporations. Let's take Disney, for example. Disney, part of my MBA, was I'm gonna go off on a tangent here. This age of authenticity, but my thesis report was Netflix for my MBA. I had to do a financial analysis. I think I do a 3 years forward and 5 years back on Netflix plus their top five competitors. Disney was in there, and I'll say on financial forecast throughout my MBA, man, I was just rocking it. But this is into 2020. Yeah, this is last semester 2020 when I was doing this. Disney was poised to just swallow Netflix. They were going to run over them, put Netflix out of business, or either absorb them financially. When we talk about market cap, Netflix, unless they started raising their subscriptions pretty substantially, their market cap was going to stagnate. They weren't going to grow anymore. Disney was poised to just run over them. Disney ruined it with content, and if you look at their content now, it's not. I'm going to say authentic. Um, Nobody's watching it, nobody's buying it, and throughout the world, you kind of take that mindset, age of authenticity. You start looking at staples of entertainment, influence, that bro community influencers. We're just seeing these things topple one by one, both popularity, financially, and legally. So sorry, I'll open the conversation back up for some input.
It's never enough, right? You can't always do better. You can't always do better. And
Right.
you you try they try.
Yeah,
I'll put it like this. I really enjoyed the Marvel series, like the build up to Endgame. Like I could sit and watch all those movies in a row and the story that they crafted, right? And then we peaked at Endgame. And I now watch the new ones and I'm like, they're really trying to get back to that. And they didn't plan for the letdown of the story. Like we've got to return to baseline and build back up. No, they just tried to make another movie and it fell flat on its face. And then this thing, and now, oh, what are we going to do? What should we do? We got to bring back all the original characters with the multiverse and we're going to do Doomsday and that's going to bring the thing back. Okay, that's just an example for Marvel. You can apply that to anything else. You know, the ones that prepare for the fall, they recover, and the ones that don't, they fall further. Content, it's never enough. It is extremely difficult to stay on your baseline, what you started with, because the algorithm is against you to begin with, and it will promote you and then it'll slow you down to get you to create something else. It's working against you. The audience is working against you. And if you're trying to be positive or uplifting, it's against you also more. If you
yeah,
want to show murders and shootings, I saw like 8 murders today on Instagram. That is 8
yeah,
more than I want to see
right,
on Instagram. But they get me there. They people sneak them into videos and those get promoted more and things like that. So,
yeah,
well, so how does that erode things with authenticity? Well, people are unintentionally seeing things they don't want to see, and now they're becoming uh, immune to it, inoculated to it,
yeah,
so that now they subconsciously need more and more. And now it's never enough on the consumer side. It's never enough on the producer side. It's never enough on the consumer side. So you got this driving up towards fucking demise or whatever until the whole house of cards comes falling down. It's too bad. Well, how do I get away from that? Well, the only person I can affect is me. So all I got to do is just work on me and my small group of friends and followers and things like that, and stay as much as I can. Be as yeah, it's cheesy. Like just try and take care of me as much as I can. Me and my family and my friends and things like that. These companies don't care about me. These big celebrities, they don't care about me. There's some that grew from nothing and they really care about their followers and their fans, and you can see it in their content and you can see it in how they carry themselves and things like that. But so difficult, so
yeah,
difficult. We're so connected. There's so much activity and connection and all this other shit these days. Like these big companies way back when, there was no visibility. They could just stick to their plan because they didn't have social media breathing down every decision on policy and money and all these other things, and they were able to build at this rate. Now everything's scrutinized. Everybody's afraid of what's happening and who they're going to offend and who they're going to impress and all
right,
these other things. And it's all because of how connected we are. We're so tied into one another and we don't want to listen to what each other has to say at the same time. So, yeah, I completely understand what you're saying. I also went off on a tangent there.
yeah. On your algorithms, they're obviously constructed by somebody who has beliefs about the United States that differ from us, differ from the people watching this. And I'm going to say differ with, they say 70% of the United States, but I'm going to say it's probably higher than that. These people don't hold their values, and they build algorithms that push shows like this down. What has countered that very recently is the blue jean ad. So with the Sydney Sweeney blue jean ad, they went back to hot girl in blue jeans instead of trying to something that's visually appealing to notice. Girls want to be her. Girls want to be her. Guys want to be with her. It draws you to that product, blue jeans. That's authentic. It's hitting things that are real. The attraction between males and females. That's a very authentic thing. That went over. It had no social value, it had no political message. It was an authentic ad hitting authentic attractions between males and females. That was really one of the things that really kind of drove home for me, that the suspicion I've had of age of authenticity. You see something like that, 25% bump in market cap, or 25% bump in sales, market cap bump was, I think, in the teens, off of an authentic ad. Going back to the things we saw, I'm going to say, I don't know, 25 years ago, 20 years ago, I want to say going back to the age of uh, Bush won presidency, before things got weird. Everybody had to have a cause. You had to display you had to display your willingness to accept things that aren't true. And with that, I'm going to go down the what they call the swamp or the establishment rat hole, which in my career I got way more exposure to that than anybody should have to. Yeah, my thought, what I'm going forward with is this age of authenticity thing, and I'm talking to people about it, and I've got friends and family that like, yeah, that's what's happening, that's what's going on. I see it. So, any furthers on that? Going from a blue jean ad to how it was received, you've got a very vocal but very minor population that are saying, oh, that's racist. I don't see how anything like that was racist. It was a pretty girl in blue jeans.
All right. All right. We're gonna go down the rabbit hole here.
Yeah,
An influencer messaged me the other day because people were being negative in my comments about having a woman on, and he messaged me. He goes, "Just you gotta fucking ignore them. You can't
yeah,
reward bad behavior, Nick."
no,
And I went, "You're right. You're right. You are 100% right. I can't reward bad behavior. I just gotta ignore them. It's tough, but I just gotta ignore them." Okay. So most people can't do that. And also, most of these people are bots. We have fake outrage. This is fake outrage being outraged by other fake outrage. And then you get a couple people and then it gets bolstered up in there. That's really hard for people to process, that they're being manipulated by an AI or by a computer or
yeah,
a bot farm or something like that. So, authenticity thing, there is no authenticity in that. It's just two sides of the same animal manipulating
right.
the prey, what generates the funds. When I see the Sydney Sweeney ad, I feel like a fucking loser because I'm like, God damn it, that's so simple. And I'm down here trying to make funny content and I'm like, God, that's so simple. Why it
Yeah,
just drives up views and clicks and all this
yeah,
other shit. But it's beautiful. Like when I say with lifting, listen, if your workout plan is too complicated, it's bullshit. If you don't have a good bench, squat, and deadlifts, you don't need to be doing anything else until you get those fixed. And then you can go get 3 more exercises and then you could branch out on that. But if you don't have the basics, you don't have jack shit. Like if we can't shoot or in the shoot house, and we can't hit the target, then we're fucking useless. If you can't run battle drill 1 alpha, then you're not a good Green Beret. I'm sorry. I mean, we're supposed to be able to go teach that in our target language, right? So I guess what that comes down to is just the fucking basics of everything. We've gotten so far away from baseline on everything. And I say this on the show now a couple times, working an idea out, is you retired in 22. You remember before 9/11. There's nobody left in the active duty groups that remembers before 9/11. So now as GBs, it's going to be a whole new world, unfortunately, of guys people are joining to get college paid for. The Green Berets that were in 2000, September 10th, 2001, there's none of them left to teach the guys how
yeah,
it was when everybody was poor, when there was no
yeah,
money, when you didn't have any money to go training. So I think we're due for a reset, but we've gotten so far away from baseline that it's just going to naturally swing back the other way. Everything
yeah,
will.
yeah. It's without fundamentals, and you take a Green Beret and you take a special forces Rangers. This couldn't happen. Special forces, this can happen. You can have a guy that can just barely get by, but he learns the lingo. He can run his mouth. He hangs out with the popular guys. He supports the right sergeant major. These guys will become first sergeants. They will become sergeant majors. Eventually, they crumble. The guys I'm talking about. They can't do anything. They haven't done anything, but they've ran their mouth and they've politicked. They've hung with the right clique, and the military, at least in special forces, the military confuses the word successful. Successful is usually connotated with promotion, raises, money. It's not tied to functionality, and that falls back to the basics. You got to be able to move, shoot, and communicate. After you master those 3 things, you can go forward. You can learn to teach. If you can't shoot, move, and communicate, you haven't done anything. You're not successful. They'll call you successful promotion, but you're not effective. I got in trouble with a sergeant major because I wasn't pursuing a first sergeant slot. And he said, "Don't you want to be successful?" And I said, "CSM, I want to be effective." It was like I pulled a pin on a grenade when that happened. I wasn't chasing promotion. I was chasing effectiveness. Did that my whole career, and it ended well for me.
Well, what a Sergeant Major told me is if he wants to make somebody else a Sergeant Major, he gives them a diamond because they
Yeah,
believe that you should be a Sergeant Major also.
yeah,
That's his perspective. He thinks
right,
he's doing you a favor,
yeah,
giving you a star by giving you a diamond.
right.
So I
Yeah,
see
and
the other side of it too.
that's true. You get the diamond, you're going to get a star. It's that simple. And in some clicks, you don't have to be effective. You to get that have to be you have to say the right things and hang out with the right people, but you don't have to be effective in certain groups. I'm going to say most of SF, that's not true. You have to be effective to get that diamond, but there are clicks to where you can be socially successful and get that diamond, which earns you the star. Now by the time I was even considering sergeant major, I was not promotable. I was not deployable. I did sneak out of the country once. Physically, this was kind of close hold information. I was not deployable. Looking at my OMPF file, you could pick out that, hey, this guy can't go overseas. So I couldn't be promoted to sergeant major. So I pursued it for a couple of years. Realized that this isn't going to happen. Stop pursuing it. Very good in COERs. Promote immediately. I served as CSM. For me, I knew it wasn't going to happen, so I did my job. Um, respectful to command. I followed their intent to the letter, but I pursued effectiveness. I tried to get better. I was in a coaching assignment, a rotational coaching assignment. Every rotation, I tried to get a little bit better in my craft. So when I retired, I felt very good about what I'd done in group and what I did later at USATOC as a coach. So kind of off tangent there, but yeah,
No, you're good.
yeah,
A question popped up in my
yeah,
head because you
yeah,
said you've been all over and done a bunch of things, and then you did a bunch of shit as
mhm,
a GB as well
yeah.
inside a group and at use of soccer and some other things. I got the feeling that like when you speak about things you've seen, do you feel like you saw too much to not be cynical about the military?
I try to be cynical, but I will be respectful, but I will be very honest and open about what I saw. And I saw some things when I eventually, got kicked up to group. You don't volunteer to get promoted to group, you get kicked to group. When I got kicked to group, I served a primary staff role because there is no major or CW3 willing to take this job. I, as a senior E8, was serving as a staff primary. When you have the S1, the S2, the S3 positions at group, I held an S position as the primary for that section. With that, I was group staff meetings. I was in there when concept operation, when training ConOps came through. I sat in and staffed those. The things I heard and the actions I saw um, turned my stomach, and it all involved money. There's a little bit of politicking. Oh, these I don't like these guys. They can't go. But most of the things I saw that turned my stomach revolved around shuffling money from where it was supposed to be to where it went. It's in finance world. This is known as recoloring. It's hard to do, and sometimes it wasn't recolored. It was just misspent. I'm not talking tens or even I'm going to say over millions of dollars. Money taken away from teams and their mission put into bullshit.
Yeah, as I put it as the other day, our population, enlisted side, has changed dramatically over the last 25 years, 30
Yeah,
years, right?
yeah,
We've gone from a guy on a team was mid 30s, mid to late 30s, was pretty much your entire makeup of your team. Team sergeant was 40s, the senior enlisted dudes were in SF for the most part. And now you can take it as whatever you want. The officer corps has remained exactly the same age, has not changed one little bit. The same, you graduate from college at the same age, you get second lieutenant, first lieutenant, you take a company, and then you go to over selection. They haven't changed at all in age or progression or anything. And now the age of the NCO has dragged to much lower than your team leader is. And think that has one thing to do with it. And then you factor in a never ending global war on terror in that as well, and the surge and asking SF to do so many different things. Things are bound to change, and there's bound to be things that you're not going to find acceptable from your point of view that are perfectly acceptable to other people. It's kind of that's disheartening to hear, but it's not surprising that that would happen at all.
Yeah.
But
So
it's a bummer.
if there's any CID agents watching this, you can figure out what group I was in. We mentioned this, and it involved T-skip money. Yeah, theater security. Yeah, but yeah, that was I opened my mouth. No names, but I will say that I was very near prior to this to some inappropriate actions of money, and I know that I have my finances have, I've been told, have personally been monitored and watched, and yeah, I don't know for how long they were, but I was told this is going on with me and people around me. So. Um,
That's gotta be creepy.
You know, here's the thing though. What I handle, as a Charlie, I handled money, but I can see the team was very disappointed in me. I did the right thing with money. I didn't recolor money. I didn't do any fake receipts. If I turned in a receipt, I had spent the money. That was not part of my job. The money part of my job was a huge hassle. I didn't look at it as something to benefit from. So, I played it straight on that. With the lower age during the 18 X-ray days, people complain about the 18 X-ray, but I tracked the guys that made it. Average age was a little bit higher than people were thinking. Just the guys that made it through the basic training course at 18 X-ray. Average age, I can't remember what it was. It was pretty deep in the 20s, but the college level was 3 years. The most popular degree of the guys coming in was exercise kinesiologist. I don't, gym rats, professional gym rats, personal trainer guys coming through. I support the 18 X-ray program. I don't have like 18 good guy. I have no problem with an 18 X-ray being a command sergeant major and having not seen the real army. I think there's some things out of the real army that you can pull out, and that's the staffing functions. Be effective, play it straight, no bullshit. We don't have to fluff up our mission just for the staff positions, the officers. Just play it straight. We can pull that from the army. But a command sergeant major, having not seen the regular army, I have no problem with that. I would like that individual to have had some life experience along the way, maybe a couple non-traditional TDA to pre-duty assignments, and maybe come in a little bit later in life. At least get the early 20s knocked out, get some college knocked out, meet a girl, have a baby, go drag racing, skydive, buy a hot air balloon, do something, have some experience to bring in when you get an 18 X-ray program. But overall, I have no issue with the regiment getting younger. At first, I did once I saw that the regiment was wanting 18 X-rays more than they were wanting guys in the 82nd. I had some heartburn with that at first, but now big picture, and this isn't any politicking with a sergeant major friend of mine that was, the guys that were. I'll talk about that later, but no, I have no issue with your regiment getting younger and not seeing the army.
I mean, it's getting pretty young. It's getting pretty young.
Yeah,
But
it is.
that's just the way things are going. There's
Yeah,
nothing anybody can do about
yeah,
it. The regular army isn't producing people that want to go do the job
yeah.
anymore, and they're graduating at
Um,
abysmal rates.
right, and yeah. So, and general and command sergeant major, to you, I want you to find a way to get these guys overseas somewhere and get some life experience because at some point you are people after you are going to be sending these guys to war. They don't need sensitivity training. They need to go overseas and meet some people and do some job that benefits the United States in our interest. That's how you build. That's how you build the peacetime force. Give them life experience that they can draw on when they're in combat.
Absolutely. Fuck, man. We didn't even get into one of the stories that I wanted to get into. I'm gonna have you on for a short episode and get some
Okay.
stories out of you.
Yeah.
Or maybe some offline stuff
Okay.
on some real answers that on some other things. But because I wanted to get into that, but I gotta get my work done for.
Yeah. I rambled. You and the
No,
listeners. I am
you're
so
good, man. You're
so.
good. I enjoy it. I was like, man, I want to hear this because you got all the whole breadth of experience and
Yeah.
things like that,
So
and
yeah.
it's just interesting. And the span you got to have in your career, you got to see poor times, the rich times, and then
Yeah,
fading back into the poor times. So you
yeah,
got to see the whole thing. So obviously that's why I brought that question. Like, do you think you saw you saw so much change and so much ups and downs and different personalities and things and units and things like that. So that's why I brought that question up. Like,
yeah. No,
because I find, because the more I know, I'm like, man, I wish I didn't know some of this. I wish I was still stupid, and just kind of aloof to things. And the more you learn, the more you're like, now I know, and now it sucks.
yeah. So yeah, I went from running through the woods, yelling bang because there were no blanks available, to being on an ODA, being handed the company credit card, and the sergeant major telling me, go to Lowe's, get $10,000 worth of tools for the deployment. I mean, that was like crazy. It was just crazy. And then we got into as Afghanistan SF was winding down the combat stuff in Afghanistan. I saw we were doing they weren't calling them JSTEDs, it was T-skips. And I saw the T-skip, we went from the GWAP money to the theater security cooperation program money coming in. And that ruined third group. It just, they had this massive cash coming in from the State Department. And I'll give you the number here. State Department was writing a check for $2.2 million for an ODA to go overseas and teach a foreign military, for like 60 to 90 days. CISOC would tax 10% of that for support. So Group was getting a check for $2 million for these missions. I witnessed a team that was going to a country that forbid U.S. military aircraft in their airspace, so they had to fly commercial. No way about it. And the air officer, who was not a warrant, it was a commissioned officer, it was a Black Hawk pilot, not from the SOF unit. She, in the middle of this, as this was being presented to the group commander, she stood up and said, I know they're flying commercial, but I need to hold $1.2 million back for C-17, $600,000 a trip to go over and pick them up, although the U.S. military was forbidden to. So that $2.2 million just had $1.2 million taken out by group staff. Then they start nitpicking the request. So State Department writes a $2.2 million check. The team winds up fighting literally for Motrin, Butcher Block, and batteries. They show up, see the embassy, deal with the ambassador, deal with military attache, get pushed out, and they're showing up with State Department having to get them ammo. They've got, instead of plasma screens, they're teaching off Butcher Block. They're coming to the State Department for meds because they couldn't get any meds, and they're going in like a camping trip for 60 to 90 days. And I remember one of the staff at group saying, "I don't understand why the State Department hates SF." And the reason it does is they write these $2+ million checks for a team to go over, and they show up with nothing. So anyway, that's a tangent. Trying to
No,
get off the
no,
line.
no, but that's exactly what I'm talking about.
Yeah.
Because if you see that, there's no coming back from that. Like, you
No.
can't recover from that. No staff or know how good a group commander is or anything like that. Once a soldier sees that and sees the process, you can't recover
I
from that. They're like, fuck this place, I'm out of here.
I have a friend he was a warrant. When I got to the company, he was a team warrant, became company warrant. He was up in group and he was involved when this was going on. He was involved. A team would try to go do a Halo train up using USASOC Air, staying in barracks. I remember him saying, "Oh, this is just a boondoggle." Like, no, this is a level 1 Halo train up that has to be done before that team can deploy as a military free fall special reconnaissance asset. And I just remember him saying, "This is just a boondoggle for the team." No, this is a doctrinal train up. But yeah, just like that, you can't unsee that. And you can't look at those people that were your friends, mentors, people that you respected. And then you find out that once they've had the power to influence group commander and direct their career, basically get themselves promoted by favor. It's just, you have no respect for them anymore. If they were friends and mentors, and now it's like,
I will say though, they're not here to defend themselves.
yeah, and that's true.
Or
This is my side. I do not, in thinking about it critically and trying to employ empathy, I don't know what pressure was on them. My side. I don't know what was influencing them to do things that, in my eyes, it was just shitbaggery. I don't know what's motivating them to do that. There's probably a lot more that I'm not aware of. I was an EA thrown into a major's position and told, go do the job. And I don't know what these guys that had been up there for a year, they're officers. They can't have a boo boo and then go somewhere else and recover it on the next NCOER. They're done. They're going to be sent somewhere that indicates the Army that, hey, we're sending this guy to a dead end and he can't get out. It's we can always dig ourselves out. As an E8, it's an E8, you can always dig yourself out. Other than DUI or domestic violence, an E8 can dig himself out of anything.
Yeah, let's try and avoid those.
Yeah, yeah,
But again,
yeah,
this is just now, as I said, the soldier's perspective, you can't come back
yeah,
from that. Now,
yeah,
they might be, they could lay bunch of shit out and go, this is what I'm dealing with. And I'd go, and
yeah,
I'd believe that too.
right,
I'd be like, yep, I completely
yeah,
understand. The problem is not you or me. Like most people, and Group Sergeant Major said it, he's like, people are not making decisions to fuck people over. We're not
right.
sitting around and
Oh,
coming up with ways to make life shittier for the guys. We are getting stuff from this direction and this direction and this direction, and we're trying to make the best that we can. And people think we're sitting in the ivory tower, like going like Mr.
no,
Burns, like how can I fuck over
as
Springfield today?
so yeah, it was, as a team sergeant, I was put in a situation that forced my behavior to just look back a lazy shitbag team sergeant that didn't want to go out and do missions and find bad guys. That's all I wanted to do. But I had some pressures on me from group and battalion. I had some other jobs, and the team hated me. They eventually got me kicked off the team. I recovered and became a team sergeant again under USOC umbrella. But I recovered and I actually sent sergeant major share for I don't know 3 years. But yeah, there were pressures on me, and I think the guys that didn't like me called me a jerk then. I think they figured out what was going on. They have no issue with me now. And yeah, and I need to think critically about those people and those actions that I saw. I look at it as just careerism. There may have been things way beyond I want to get promoted. It might be I just want to keep my job and feed my family. I got to think critically about that. So yeah, as I'm running my mouth, got to step back, got my biases, think critically, and play some empathy. What was forcing them to make those decisions?
That's my job over here as the host.
Yeah.
I'm going to wrap us up.
Okay.
We're going to come back on and we're going to have story hour here
Yeah.
probably next month or something like that.
Okay.
And I'll hit you
Yep.
with the questions then. AJ, the average Green Beret, we'll get into that later too. How can everybody find you on the social media if they
Okay.
so choose?
Social media. Most active if you want to contact me in Messenger. My Facebook persona goes back to when we couldn't have social media. I could say open social media. Had to have it. Anyway, long story short, AJ, the letters AJ, and then Jaxin, but it's Jaxin. Find me on Facebook. Send me a Facebook message is the easiest way to find me. I don't do anything with Instagram or X right now. Just find me on Facebook and shoot me a message. I'll get back with you. Go to email. It's a long email. Just the letter AJ. And it's and it's the follow one mission.org. That's follow one mission just after you gather some intel and you get a follow one mission. So get the name there.
I'll have links to your socials and your website in the show
Okay. Yeah.
description. I appreciate you coming on. We ran long again tonight, and it's getting late for me. I still got like 2 hours of work to do.
Okay. Yeah. Hey, thanks for your time. I'll try
No,
to.
I appreciate you coming on. I'm sorry I was up against it. It's 10:30 here now, but
Okay. Yeah.
yeah.
All right. Appreciate it, brother.
You got anything for me, bro?
No. Thank you for the opportunity. I hope you can dig through this and find something. Happy to be on. I'll get back at. I haven't done a podcast in a while. I'll get back in podcast mode, and we'll have some better content for you next go.
Appreciate you. Bye, everybody.